Week 2 in the Clash Royale League was full of photo finishes. I'm Rich Slayton, and this is your top 5 plays for the second week of CRL West. Before we kick things off, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you don't miss a moment of the action as the best players in the world compete for a chance at a trip to Shanghai, China. Here we go. Play number 5, Cream Real Betis Michifu and Diego E up against Cody Go and Flash, and they are way behind, have been behind this entire 2v2 game. We jump on ahead though, and they've taken the lead. They lose it, and this Heal Spirit comes out early. Why? Not for the RG, but to distract the Fisherman. Does its job. No pull on the Royal Giant. Diego E and Michifu come from way behind. Cody Go and Flash cannot believe they gave up the win. Look at that one more time. Heal Spirit, not for the Royal Giant, but to distract that Fisherman. Hunter comes out trying to be a part of that RG defense. Can't happen. That's number 5. On to play number 4. Boofmac versus Air Surfer, and Air Surfer has had the lead, but check this out. 64 HP left. Has to use the Fireball on defense, so it's not in cycle to finish it off here, and he can't win the foot race. Let's look at that photo finish one more time. Miner is in, Snowball is in the air, but they cannot beat out that speedy Lumberjack. Chop, chop. Boofmac takes the win. Huge one for Tribe Gaming. On to number 3. Boofmac again, this time in the opening game of 2v2 against Wings and Air Surfer with his teammate Azaleas. And check this out, the lightning just sneaks on through just as the timer changes over to 0. Let's look at just how close that was. It was absolutely insane. Like I said, close finishes all day. And look at this, the log comes through, the timer is ticking away, and that lightning hits just as the clock turns. You cannot get any closer than that. Wings can't believe it, Air Surfer can't believe it, Boofmac celebrating. Azaleas knew it was in the bag the entire time. GG, well played. Tribe Gaming went on to win, still undefeated. Our number 2 play, SK Gaming up against Team Queso. Another classic of Javi versus Ruben. This rivalry going back to CRL 2019. And this game 1 of 1v1, very close, but again, as the seconds tick away, Ruben steals it with a Fireball. Of course, Javi would go on to reverse sweep, win the set, and clutch the victory up for SK Gaming. And our top play of the week, Diego B up against his former squad and Team Liquid, playing defense against not 1, but 2 Sparkies. Has a huge lead, but that's a lot of Sparky. The Miner picks up 1 Sparky shot. Ice Wiz to slow things down. Zap trying to make enough room. It seems impossible, but Diego B more than up to the task with a perfect tornado, and then the Miner to cap it off will come in right here to pick up the mini P.E.K.K.A, and somehow Diego B stays alive, takes a huge sigh of relief, and clutches the win. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this top 5 plays. Don't forget again to subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Make sure you come back for every single weekend of CRL West, 10 a.m. in the West, 1 p.m. in the East, 7 p.m. Central European summertime, and of course, watch more videos right here. I'm Rich Slayton. We'll see you back next week for more top 5 plays.
Bola de fogo da ponta do recado.
Get the rest of the defense off.
Oh my word! Perfeita. 4 in a row for Team Queso.
Match week 4 in the Clash Royale League starts right now, and we have a number of teams all battling for a middle, and of course 2 teams battling to take firm control of the lead in the number 1 spot for our fall split in the West. Hello and welcome. I'm Rich Slayton, joining me, as always, my friend Andrew Guy, for 6 matches of CRL today and tomorrow. The main event today, Andrew, this is a big one. Spacestation Gaming with a chance to take away not only the undefeated record of SK Gaming, but take control of the #1 spot in the league.
Yeah, SK Gaming has been unstoppable after their 2-0 match win over Tribe. It seems like they have clearly established themselves as the team to beat this season. And speaking of this season, I really hope that you guys are hanging out with us on YouTube and on Twitch. You can be hanging out with us on both platforms. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, following on Twitch. Hey, maybe even throw a sub on Twitch. Why not? Can't hurt. Also, turn on those notifications. That way you know every single time that we go live, which is every Saturday and Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Also, have you guys been following us on Twitter? A lot of good polls up there. Polls go up a few days early. That way you guys can get in your thoughts, see what the community says about the matches coming up in the weekend. To be Esports Royale EN on Twitter, you can follow me at Andrew Guy. You can follow him at Rich Slayton. Make sure you are following all 3 of us to hang out with us in Clash Royale news. Lastly, I have been killing it. So has Rich in Fantasy Royale. 250,000 gold, 100 gems. Do you have your lineup set? Have you picked a couple of the teams or a couple of the players on those squads pulling double headers? I don't know. I picked 1 or 2 of them. Is that the way to go since those teams have been struggling? I don't know. Get those lineups set every single Saturday before we go live at 10 a.m. Make sure that you get your chance to win those gems. It's been a good competition here among us casters with Fantasy Royale and with our predictions, Rich.
Yeah, I don't know if you have any big recommendation pick. My big Fantasy Royale pick today is Diego B. They have a doubleheader for Chivas Esports today and tomorrow. I like their matchups, and the way both he and Chivas have been playing, he seems like my favorite pick for the weekend.
I love it. I love it. Also, guys, break time battles, statsroyale.com. Make sure that you get your chance to win a little bit of loot. Maybe if you're in the top 5, at least get on the leaderboards if you're in the top 50, or if you're in that #1 spot, you get to play against a pro. RF has yet to play his match. St. Bellican played against one of you guys this week, and you'll be able to check out those matches during our breaks today. Our 3rd pro is yet to be decided, but Guerrero, #1, congratulations to you. Jisic, Guardian Billy, Pyro Rift, and Lothar. Top 5 right there. Big shout out to you. Swag coming your way. And of course, Guerrero will be playing against St. Bellican today. Who you got your money on?
Well, one of those 2 players is a CRL Pro. The other one has a phone. So I'm going to go with the CRL Pro in that matchup, Andrew. We'll see what happens, though. Anyone can win on any given day. Totally possible. Talking about winners, by the way, of those 50 names that I saw, best name by far, Bacon Thief. Heck
Ooh,
yes.
I like that. Bacon Thief. Stay away, man. Stay away from our bacon. That is the news in regards to break time battles, but we've also got some news coming up this week for you guys. Rich, you were talking to me about, of course, our CRL East locked team, the second one that has clinched playoffs. But first, let's talk a little bit about our new card that won't be featured in CRL. We will not be seeing the Electro Giant, but we've been seeing a little bit of it in the community. Thoughts? Initial thoughts?
It's early. It's new. You know, we'll see how the zap ends up kind of fitting in the end, the zaps that it does. Right now, I think we won't see Electro Giant for 2 reasons. 1, it's not allowed in play yet, and number 2, it's not quite ready for competitive play yet. But I have a feeling that we'll see some tweaks and changes that will give it a little bit more juice, so they say. And Andrew, you were talking about the other piece of news over in CRL East, our second qualifying team. No surprises here. The only thing they do is qualify for Worlds. It's Nova Esports.
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't qualify for Worlds, it would be incredibly shocking. And kind of to flip it on its back, that's kind of how we're feeling right now over here in the West. For Nova Esports to not make World Finals would be shocking, but Team Liquid is in a very, very precarious situation to maybe not make playoffs here after winning the World Championship. This week's matches are very, very interesting, but I think our kickoff match of the day, Team Queso and Team Liquid, is a really, really interesting one. Team Queso's been playing really well, but a lot of it's been on the shoulders of Ruben, and Team Liquid has not been able to pick up a 2v2 set. Speaking of that, Chivas Esports still struggling to find their first win in their second match of the day against Dignitas, and to close out, as you mentioned at the top of our show, a very, very exciting race to first with Spacestation Gaming and SK Gaming. The battle of the 2v2 will ensue.
Yeah, a win for SSG would mean tied records for those 2 teams, but they would have the head-to-head tiebreaker, so take control of that first place, at least for the moment. Tomorrow, Chivas Esports continues their double duty against Misfits. Then we have Tribe Gaming and Cream Royale Betis in what is a good chance for Cream to take one of the hardest wins of their season and get it under their belt. We'll see if Tribe gets back in the winners column. And then again, Team Liquid with their second match of the weekend against Pain. They feel like they have a good matchup there. Pain hasn't got a win yet, but this feels like this weekend needs to be a 2-0 weekend for Team Liquid.
Yeah, I could not agree more, and I think that's why when we look at our predictions, you and I have Liquid winning, as opposed to all of our counterparts and Twitter picking Team Queso here in the first matchup. Honestly, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong and speaking for you here, I actually think Queso has been playing better. I just think Liquid has their back up against the wall, and you never want to, go up against a cornered beast, and Liquid has so much talent on their roster. It's a must-win for them today.
Yeah, I think that Liquid will finally get their 2v2 together and win the 2v2 set, and then it becomes the carry for Igor versus the carry for Ruben. The 2v2 set, in my opinion, decides everything here because you give the carrier a huge ball, and I think Liquid takes that 2v2. Now, I am the only one today out of all 6 casters across all 3 languages picking Chivas Esports, and that's a big part of my, when I'm going back to my Fantasy Royale pick. I think Diego B is playing great. I think Chivas overall is right there. The balls just bounced the wrong way. So I'm going on a limb this weekend and picking Chivas Esports, and I think Diego and Pompeo will pick up probably both 2v2s, but certainly do a good job overall today against Dig.
Yeah, and the last little outlier there was Spacestation Gaming only being chosen by one caster in Bruno over there in Portuguese. So we'll see if he ends up being right or if it's going to go with the majority. Back to Team Queso, Team Liquid, that 2v2 ever important. Will Razor finally pick up his first 2v2 set with his new squad? It's so important. Let's take a look at Team Queso and Team Liquid facing off in our first match.
Team Queso versus Team Liquid, a batalha da Team Queso para se manter no topo da tabela e a da Team Liquid para sair do fundo.
A Team Liquid, nomes ali também é um time muito bom, mas não tá dando resultado. Então acho que dessa aqui, a Team Queso vai levar a melhor. E ainda, olha isso, fechou, focou ali a máquina voadora.
Bueno, un partido importantísimo. Team Liquid nos está dejando con las ganas de irse 2 contra 2 dudosos. Team Queso está creciendo, jugando bien. Así que yo creo que acá es o la hace o se la hacen. Aquí es el momento de la verdad para Team Liquid.
All right, this is a massive matchup for Team Liquid. Something's been going wrong back at the team house. They cannot seem to figure out what to put together in their 2v2 lineup.
Gonna happen. Log comes in. GG, well played, and that's gonna be really hard, especially if the 2v2 of Benihoo and Kuchiku is clicking.
So Benny and Kuchi just kind of outclass their opponents in Diego and Michi in game 1. I'm not sure here. Razor, Igor, Canario, and Surgical Goblin coming out. Igor is going to have to stand up for his squad today in King of the Hill, and if they get to that 1v1 set. He hasn't actually had a great challenge in the 1v1 set as he's been playing against younger guys, no superstars out there. He took down Kevin RA, of course, 2-0, but then he lost to Bale 2-1. So this is going to be an important day for Igor as well as Team Liquid.
Over on the other side of things, Team Queso with that 2-1 record. The 2v2 duo of Benihoo and Kuchiku have finally gotten in the win column, 1-2 so far in sets on the season. But really, it's been the Ruben show, the #1 win rate in head-to-head play, leading 10 game wins overall in head-to-head play. Next closest is St. Bellican behind at 7. If JP can get going, it seems like it's an easy match victory for Team Queso. But so far, Andrew, that's been a pretty serious if.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it is with IMJP specifically this season, but he doesn't seem to be getting it together in King of the Hill since that's where we've seen him show up. He's got 1 game win there, but they're going to need to have him produce a lot more in those head-to-head games if they want to be champions here in the West and, of course, in the world. So Razor and Surgical Goblin coming out for Liquid. That has been their lineup for 2 matches in a row now, banning Giant Skeleton. Benihoo and Kuchiku back out with Tornado. They haven't found a set win since their first set against, of course, Misfits.
This will be an interesting one, Andrew. Here we go, jumping into the action. Team Liquid's Razor, Surgical Goblin, bottom of your screen. Kuchiku and Benny at the top, and just a quick Spear Goblin push from Team Liquid to get a little bit of early damage here.
Yeah, Spear Goblins right into a Lava Hound coming down for their opponent.
Yeah, it's been an interesting question here, Andrew, the 2v2 for Team Liquid, and you gotta feel like part of it is Razor maybe joining up with the squad a little bit late, how many reps they got in for their 2v2, and having zero time ever to practice in the same room together. Even RF and Lapacati, had plenty of time face-to-face to prepare, so when they were thrown in this season, they were able to have some synergy. Gotta wonder how much the stratification, the split between 4 different countries, has affected Liquid this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's you have to start looking for answers like that when you've watched them struggle as much as they have with as much talent as they have on their roster. It has to be something that isn't just gameplay. It's got to be something else that's factoring into the struggles they've had this season.
Lava Hound on the right-hand side, Bomb Tower down for a bit of control, pressure on the opposite side with the Wall Breakers. Snowball will take care of that. And looks like we're going to be seeing Clone potentially out of Team Queso with so much, including 2 flying machines on the board.
Yeah, definitely looking like that, but the really nice thing for Team Queso is that they've got a pretty good bit of damage here on the right-hand side without having to use that clone yet. Their opponents are probably going to be waiting and expecting it, and them seeing that poison, royal delivery, and bomb tower are going to make it a lot more difficult to make those clones incredibly effective.
The E-Wiz is a big thing here as well, but Andrew, keep an eye on this. The Poison, the Royal Delivery, and the E-Wiz are all in the hand of Surgical Goblins, so it's going to be interesting to see how they can actually rotate those correctly against these clone plays.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Got to make sure he always has enough elixir defensively, so then what does that mean for how they are going to be able to produce offense? Is it going to be solely on Razor, or will Surgical have to really be juggling his elixir balance between offense and defense?
Sharp Fireball in, Poison now high, maybe trying to preempt the clone in the right-hand lane. Night Witch coming through, Log to set the line a little bit here. And a good Knight to control, but it feels like this is going to be towered down on the right-hand side, barring any strange complications, and it is. Coochie and Benny firmly in control here in game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said there. It was a great call on the fact that they played that poison to make sure they couldn't clone. The only problem was that elixir spent on the poison did not do enough damage, and they didn't have enough DPS on the board to help deal with that double Lava Hound push. So again, we talk about Benny and Coochie doing a great job of getting a lot of pressure up, an insane amount of damage in, without actually having to use that card in the clone.
And Razor and Surgical Goblin just caught flat-footed here, and I really think, Andrew, a lot of this comes to not splitting the defense correctly between these two decks. Having all 3 of those responses in one hand here against Benny and Kuchiku really handcuffed them for this game.
Yeah, what's so interesting about, and what I love about our player camps is you can really kind of look into the mind of your, of the competitors. And one thing I've noticed a lot is with Razor, after his 2v2 sets, it's not really like, oh man, they just barely got us there. It feels like almost a little bit of loss. Like he doesn't understand why they can never put it together. And at this point, I don't really know what the answer is. I don't think you take Razor out of the 2v2, but I mean, if you look at these pushes, it's so easily put together by Queso. They don't have to do anything fancy here, Rich. It's just put Lava Hounds on the board and put stuff behind them.
Yeah, and you also look there, you see the Musketeer going straight behind the Bomb Tower, so a lot of spell value all there for one shot. You see the clone never getting played here by Benny. So you see the Bomb Tower and the Musketeer right there, easy fireball value, easy spell value, and just not able to get in rhythm so far is Razor with Team Liquid.
And I don't understand it, because here's the thing, is speaking with Razor and speaking with him and talking to the players that he's, been teamed up with, there's not an ego issue. I know that there's not with him and Eric. I know that they want to win. I know that these guys are all champion caliber players. It's just so odd that you put them all in the same squad and they don't. It's almost it's become a handicap for all of them.
Well, it's also interesting because you look at the variety of partners that Razor has had in 2v2, including Dip, who's someone who people said maybe wasn't at the level, and even he pulled himself out of the league this season, but Razor and Dip did a great job, and I think maybe this is showing a little bit of how good Dippets was as a teammate for Razor in 2v2, because they looked really, really good last season, barring 1 or 2 mistakes. And again, I think that speaks to players being able to develop a relationship face-to-face that maybe they weren't able to develop in this situation.
Yeah, and also, you know, what you pointed out about the defense there. You know, we talked a lot about how Liquid was really struggling with their defense and you know, you recognizing that a lot of the defensive answers were in one player's hand. Maybe they do need to be split up just a little bit more, you know, peppered a little bit of offensive cards in Surgical Goblin's hands so he can help with offense and then give a little bit more to Razor. So they have to work together on both instead of making one person deal with defense, the other with offense. You're playing two different games. You need to play the same one together and work together.
Well, you know, you talk about how, in general, matchup isn't as big of a factor in 2v2 as it is in 1v1, except for certain situations. But what can change the difficulty of that matchup is hand construction, is how you actually divide those 16 cards. So I don't know if that would have changed everything in this case, because of course we saw the clone ended up being not necessary, so much pressure was put on. But still keep in mind that a lot of that air defense was still all in one hand between the Ewiz, between the Royal Delivery, between the Poison to clean things up. Really, it was just the Musketeer and maybe the Spear Goblins on the other side of it. So tough call there, trying to make 16 cards into two different hands. Let's see if Team Liquid can correct things here in game 2.
Yeah, Betty and Kuchi did they did the smart thing. They recognized that their opponents didn't have a ton of air single target DPS to just burn through those Lava Hounds. And if they staggered up their support behind, it'd be really hard to spell out on the back end, because they knew that their opponents knew the clone was going to be a card that could come into play.
You know, Andrew, we talk a lot about the 2v2 prowess of Razor and the experience of Razor overall. Career win rate, not counting today, 54%. His partner, Surgical Goblin, no slouch though, and maybe a little bit more surprisingly even than you would think, a 53% win rate over his career in 2v2.
Yeah, I mean, he really found a home there with Canario, and what I think is going to be really interesting about this specific matchup that we're seeing right now is with a deck that goes really quick in the hands of Benny and Kuchi and can create opposite lane pressure with bait aspects. Will that communication, that lack thereof, really come into play here? Is that what they're trying to exploit in Team Liquid, is the lack of communication defensively?
That'll be curious. I mean, Team Liquid does have a lot of good responses here for the wall breakers between the cage. If there's pressure in one lane, they have Snowball, Log, Ewiz. I think that as long as Team Liquid doesn't fall for a double drop here at any point, they should be okay. Just the question is, how quickly can they communicate in those situations?
Yeah, and that's what, that double drop is what is going to have to be forced out by Benny-Hu and Kuchiku.
Easy cleanup there on the right-hand side. Final 15 seconds before we get into double elixir, and so far it is Team Queso's Kuchi and Benny who are ahead on damage so far. Win rate for those two is 45 and 49% career-wise in this set, respectively.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work that Benny and Kuchi have to put in to take down a tower, since a lot of that damage is going to come from spells, but mostly from their miners and hoping their opponent makes a mistake. As we get in double and triple elixir time, as we talk about regularly, this graveyard deck is really going to start to move into the power position.
And that was a sharp Ewiz out of Razor on the right-hand side to take care of both the bats and the wall breakers. 4-for-4 trade and forced out the Log on the right-hand side.
The Fisherman not able to get on top of that Inferno as quickly as they'd like. Going to sizzle down that Mega Knight. Fisherman going to be pretty much negligible, and a really nice counter push comes in from Benny and Kuchi. And this is where Razor and Surge have to be careful, is by giving their opponents too much elixir to respond with these big counter pushes.
Well, you take a look at what Benny and Kuchi have put together, and this might be a direct response to how popular this Balloon Graveyard Freeze deck is. They have Inferno Dragon, they have Ewiz, they have Poison, they have Bats. They have a lot of pieces designed specifically to counter this deck. We'll see if Razor and Surge can do something here. They get a second drop. That is absolutely huge, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you talk about all those great responses they have, but not able to get them down in sequence, or their opponents looking at the most easy way to defend, and they got right in their face with it. They were able to stop the Inferno, get that Balloon pretty much tanked for all the way through, and a late drop with that Lumberjack Rage. Really, really nice.
This might be the most important defense, but no, Freeze Fireball finishes it off, and there you go. Team Liquid, Team Queso, 1-1 in our opening set.
Yeah, this is huge. This is huge for both guys. You see there, Razor and Surgical not really looking too happy, as they know that they really, really need to pick up this next game and show that this is what Team Liquid can do in the 2v2 set. That being said, Benny-Hu and Kuchiku, no slouches in this as well. And I don't know, maybe a quick readjustment, but a lot of responses in the hand of Razor and Surge to deal with those wall breakers.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there were a lot of defensive responses on both sides, and you got to wonder, again, with all the different pieces that Kuchi and Benny had, with Poison, with Inferno Tower, with E-Wiz, even with the delivery, a lot of pieces here designed. They went double E-Wiz, Andrew, so a lot of pieces there to defend against this deck just could not hold together, and maybe it was a bit of an overcommitment on their side, especially when you saw that Bats Wallbreakers push into the E-Wiz. Log went there to defend against the E-Wiz as well, put them just a couple elixir behind, which they needed on this defense.
Well, and that's one of the issues with this deck, is that it does offer you so much spell value defensively. You're able to clean up a lot, or positive elixir trades, whether it's with a spell or something like an E-Wiz where it drops, it feels like a spell, then takes up all that swarm. So that is something that, you really want to avoid when playing this deck, and also something that's more difficult to do than with something, say, like a double bait deck, to where it's a lot easier to have your opponents make mistakes.
And you look at that, Inferno Tower and the Electro Wizard both get completely absorbed, and this second E-Wiz comes down high. So kind of 3 E-Wizards played in almost a bit of a no man's land for Team Queso, giving lots of freeze value, getting completely wiped off the map, and none of them doing much of anything to stop that balloon.
Yeah, just too much being dropped up high and in the middle for Team Queso, as you said, giving a lot of spell value there. If you have 2 E-Wizards, if you've got that Royal Delivery, if you have these responses in the bats, you just really need to stagger out how you want to defend them. If you're going to play your Inferno in the same time every time, maybe get bats to surround it, drop your E-Wiz a little closer to your Princess Tower, really slow that balloon down, and then drop the delivery late. Obviously, it doesn't push back anymore, but you saw that the last thing that came in, I believe, was the bats, and at that point, your opponent is going to hold on to their snowball because they haven't seen them yet. So if they haven't seen your bats come out, they're just going to hold that snowball because they know that it's your last line of defense, because it does so much damage and it's so cheap. So really nice recognition there. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, all tied up here at 1-1. Andrew, we talked about this top of the show. This has been a carry season on both sides. Ruben certainly more than Igor at this stage, but so far it seems like each team really has one player who's super clicking. It feels like this game number 3 might be a match decider.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I think whoever wins this first set needs to win in the King of the Hill, because, as you said, it really becomes a coin toss either way, and if it does become a third set against Ruben, it seems like he's the last guy you want to play against in 1v1 this season.
Yeah, he's been so nasty, 10-3 so far on the season. Again, the next person behind him is at 7 wins, and a lot of that has been off of that first King of the Hill sweep and the success he's had in the 1v1 set. So we'll see if we get there, but first and foremost, Andrew, we're going to game number 3 of 2v2. If you're Team Liquid, do you go back to the Balloon Graveyard Freeze, seeing how much difficulty it presented for Team Queso?
If I'm Team Liquid, I just want to run the best deck they've ever seen Razor and Surge run together. I don't care if your opponents are expecting it. I don't care if they have a response. I just want to see the deck that you two click the most using, and then I want to see some success.
Well, Lava Hound both directions, so we'll see if they're going Lava Clone, either one of them. Very interesting game number 3 choice from these two squads.
Yeah, for them to both go Lava with the Heal Spirit there is going to be, very similar matchups here. Probably not going to be quite a mirror, as we don't see that very often, but definitely very, very similar looks here.
Lava Hound pops a bit early for Team Queso. Team Liquid now putting the pressure on at the bridge.
Yeah, and that Flying Machine gets on top of the Baby Dragon, but the Lava Hound squeaks in just in time for Liquid to protect that Inferno on the left-hand side. Been on the board for quite a second.
This is great for Team Liquid. The Mega Minion comes down, takes care of the high Flying Machine, not able to finish off the tower, but a good exchange. And while Team Queso has stuff on the board, Team Liquid does have Elixir to defend.
Yeah, really, really great first offensive push there from Liquid. They didn't get too greedy, which is another thing I really, really liked, which is why you see here on defense, I guess they're not going to lose their tower because they didn't get too greedy, but I felt like they should have maybe spent a little bit more here to preserve that tower's HP. Yes, they're even in Elixir now, but they could have been ahead on damage.
Yeah, it was that second Flying Machine that came down right in front of the King Towers for Team Queso that really shut down that push overall. The high one from Queso got eaten up by the Mega Minion, but that second one, there was no way to get to it in that moment. So right now, Team Liquid setting up again with the fairly rarely seen Electro Dragon.
Yeah, Electro Dragon, though, still one of the strongest cards in the game and a very, very frustrating card to play against, especially if you're a person that runs any sort of bait. E-Drag here doing great, great cleanup, and a second Lava Hound comes down for Surge and Razor.
And so far, what's been the key for Team Liquid is keeping troops like the Electro Dragon on the board for a long time, and that's a very good Lightning this time, not letting that flying machine play too much defense. A lot on the board right now for the defending world champions.
Yeah, this seems like it's going to be the set for Razor and Surge to finally take. They've got about 30 Elixir on the board, another 6 in hand, and it feels basically impossible at this moment for them to sacrifice 1,400 tower damage before they take down this last 400.
Well, I mean, we summoned a couple of moments here. 124, there will be enough spell value to get that left-hand tower down. There you go. Andrew, this was not about the bridge. This was all about the supporting troops that were played maybe 3 to 4 tiles off. And in that situation, Team Liquid won that battle, did a much better job of protecting those deep troops, and that ended up swinging this game towards Liquid.
And now you finally see the smiles coming out for Team Liquid after a 2v2 set. Finally picking up their 4th game win and their first set win. And Rich, you called it from the very opening moment. It's all about the electricity on the left side of the map. The lightning was huge, but the E-Dragon was the great equalizer at the bridge. Not only did it really help with defense, but also that defense translated into offense by helping clean up units on the other side because of that chain lightning.
Well, they just couldn't get to it. They couldn't get to that Electro Dragon. Whereas between the Lightning and the Mega Minion, Liquid did a great job of getting the flying machines. And you're talking about a Lava Hound battle. What you do about the supporting troops is key. It's huge. And you can see right here, look at how long this Electro Dragon is in the mix, how long it's in the game.
Yeah, a really, really great poison there to kind of preserve the HP of the Electro, but as you're talking about, lots of defense on this E-Dragon. This was the moment I specifically was speaking on. Not only does that lightning come in, but those first few hits from the Electro Dragon are really punishing the Baby Dragon on the other side of the map. And then the Fire Spirits clear it off, or excuse me, the Lava Pups clear it off the board. So that E-Drag not only helps defense, helps offense, cleans up their opponent's support troops. So much done there with 5 Elixir.
Yeah, absolutely huge. So we don't see Electro Dragon that much. Of course, it's also part of the Stinky Cheese deck, or one of the Golem Battle Healer decks that does exist. And we'll see, by the way, if that still comes around with the new Battle Healer hover mechanic over the river being kind of an iffy question. We'll see how that plays out. But the Electro Dragon, not seen much. We saw here, though, such a perfect choice in this battle, and I'm wondering if Team Liquid put Kuchiku and Benihoo on Lava Hound going into that final match.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that that's another great unit to help pop those additional clones before you want to drop your big spell, right? To be able to take off a cloned Lava plus that early cloned Lumberjack really helps you decide how you want to deal with that next level of defense. And, you know, speaking of cards that changed a little bit, Battle Healer, a big one. The other one, Royal Ghost. We've seen a lot more bridge spam over the last few days, last week, just because of that specifically. I'm very curious now that we're into the 1v1 sets in head-to-head, will we see a lot more bridge spam again because of that boost in Royal Ghost, the buff?
I think we'll definitely see more because we've seen so little as of late. And I also think we'll see there's a Royal Hogs Zappies Royal Ghost deck, like a triple Royal, right? I think it has Royal Ghost. There's a Royal Recruits version as well, but the Goblin Cage version is more popular. But Royal Recruits, Royal Hogs, Royal Ghost, Zappies, Magic Archer, very popular right now. And I bet we'll see that at least one today, especially once we get to the Germans in our third match.
So King of the Hill coming up next. Let us know on Twitter who you think is going to take this set. Will Liquid walk away 2-0, or will Queso extend this to the third and final set where we'll see Ruben once again? As for lineups, I don't think there's going to be anything surprising here, although I could see Liquid move Razor back in, but I just don't know. They've been doing pretty well with Canario, Surge, and Igor. Do you have any thoughts either way on this?
Yeah, I don't know. That's such a hard call. We're not in the practices, and there you go. They do put Razor in the number 3 spot, give him some time to reset after winning that 2v2. And I wouldn't have minded seeing either Razor or Surgical Goblin in this spot. Instead, they put him at the end. The big change here, though, is moving Ruben to the end after being in the number 2 spot last week.
So a really big matchup here for IMJP. If you talk about the importance of 2v2 for Team Liquid, Kuchi and Benny already had a set in hand. This is a big moment for JP. He's got to make sure he's going to earn that paycheck and pick up more than one game win. To see him get a sweep here at King of the Hill would be a very appropriate time for him.
And he's certainly capable of doing it. In fact, did it against Canario back in CRL EU in 2018. Put together 2 sweeps that season, one against Team Liquid and one against G2.
So Lava Night Witch again here from the bottom of your screen. Will we see that clone once again today? Lava clone, if so, would be the 3rd time already in our first match.
Interesting seeing Hog triple spell with the goblins rather than the skeletons for Canario, or for IMJP. No elixir for Canario to defend, so he's going to go all in and sends the miner not to the musketeer, instead to just make sure that tankage happens and we get an early tower trade.
Yeah, very, very interesting early tower trade, especially as we're going to get into double. One thing that Canario may have an issue with is keeping those hogs at bay and getting that goblin hut or goblin cage back around, all the while creating offense. That Lava Hound is so expensive, and Lava Clone pushes are even more so.
Yeah, very curious to see if he's able to do that. Of course, this should be the Earthquake version of Hog triple spell. It could potentially be Fireball, but feels like we would have seen that already at this stage. As we go past the midway point of regulation, you see just the cycled cage and cycled EQ in response from these two.
Yeah, and Canario's going to want to try to set up his Lava Hound offset to the left here to create any sort of pressure in the left-hand lane, but then it becomes this battle of this really, really cheap 6 elixir push that's almost impossible for him to stop, especially because that cage is going to get EQ'd off the board every single time.
I wouldn't be super surprised to see Canario go in the way he is here and try to defend with something other than the cage against the Hog Rider. Maybe a bar barrel. No, he goes with the miner here to support these pups in this case, but they don't get on. I'd be curious to see if he does switch things up a little bit.
Yeah, you know, a lot of elixir spent there. He gets a little bit with miner chip, gets a little bit from the poison, but for the most part, he's still got a lot to deal with here on the right-hand side. And again, not able to orchestrate these lava clone pushes the way he'd like because of how much pressure can be created by IMJP.
And that was not the timing Canario wanted, trying to get the bar barrel out in time to preserve that flying machine. Instead, Musketeer takes the flying machine off, and it still is swinging. Oh, and just like that as well, Inferno Dragon not getting on the Hog. So 11:45 on the left-hand side. Canario setting up right into his weak side tower.
And here's the thing, that bomb tower is going to go down really soon. He's going to be able to get a second one up, but also should be able to get a little bit of help.
Snowball pushes back the Inferno Dragon, keeping the bomb tower up a little bit longer. Miner goes to the outside here. Musketeer on the Miner. Minute 45 left in sudden death overtime. A lot on the board for Canario.
Yeah, Canario getting really, really overwhelmed here. You see, or excuse me, IMJP getting overwhelmed. You see him trying to protect that Musketeer, doing a great job. Canario goes in with that bar barrel to take it off the board, but right there, that lady is the hero of the day for IMJP.
And you can see Canario now slightly ahead on Elixir, and going to add to that a bit here with this Lava Hound push. Just starting to get a bit of a gap going, and that's going to trap the Musketeer on the poison. So things starting to swing towards Canario, who is behind the Barcelonan player in JP.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's just a little bit of a gap there, and Canario cannot let this go because he cannot really deal with one more undefended Hog Rider push in. But that being said, IMJP can't send in a Hog plus Goblins and then defend that lava push. So it's become this really, really interesting race with one another.
And here we go. This is a dangerous spot for Canario. JP doing the right thing. If he can defend this push, he can get a Hog in and try to spell cycle out, but that's a big if. If he can defend this push, Hog Rider in, Night Witch, Goblin Cage playing defense. Oh boy, he could not give up that shot. This is a race here, Andrew.
Yeah, risk versus reward. Inferno Dragon somehow still protected from that Musketeer. It is taking the shots from the Princess Tower. IMJP back on offense. Where's the cage? No cage in time!
Oh, huge 3-crown win for IMJP. The Vamos for the golden-haired golden boy from Barcelona, Spain.
I mean, the tower fell for Canario. That's crazy. They fell at the exact same time, but IMJP takes 3, Canario takes 2. What a fascinating end to a game there, and IMJP can't believe it.
That was absolutely wild. Cannot wait to take a look at that photo finish one more time. Andrew, the Hog Rider able to sneak on through just by the skin of his teeth. How often have we seen a finish like that in CRL?
I mean, that was an incredible set of decision-making from both of these guys, never overselling on offense because they knew they had to have at least a certain amount of elixir defensively, whether it was the cage plus the Night Witch or the cage plus the Inferno for Canario. IMJP on the other side doing a great job of cycling those Musketeers out and keeping them on the board, really protecting them. Incredibly impressive. It feels like this was honestly 3 games ago, the beginning of this here as we're 1 minute in.
Yeah, you can see not much elixir on either side for defense and maybe not the right cards in cycle. So JP decides, hey, gonna go in, take the tower, and Canario goes, all right, I'll play the 2-tower game here. But look at all the damage given on the King Tower at that stage. You talk about how this finish ended, one less hog hit on that left-hand side or on that King Tower, and we have a win for Canario as this gets into the late game.
I know, that miner is a really interesting miner from the very first replay we saw. Was that miner actually necessary? Yes, the tower probably doesn't go down, but you've got so much time to still take that tower. Maybe sending in that miner on the very first hit was not the way to go. Then you've got a little bit more elixir to defend. So here we go. Let's take a look at this. Inferno on, Barb Barrel in, Snowball comes in, Hog Rider is hitting with the Earthquake, and they literally fall at the exact same second. The only thing is that one is a King Tower and the other is the Princess Tower. That's the only reason we didn't go to a 3-tower game. Just incredible decisions there by JP in those final seconds.
Yeah, the snowball was huge, and look, he had one choice. He could play the snowball on defense and still end up losing his tower, or play the snowball on offense and go for the big shot. We've talked about that before. IMJP is a high risk, high reward. He's a big shot taker. He took his shot there and it paid off.
Yeah, and this is, again, a very big win for IMJP. So he's back out for King of the Hill. He's picked up his second head-to-head win of the season. Now it's going to be against the Mortar God himself in Igor.
Yeah, very curious to see if JP goes the same direction one more time, opening up with Hog. We'll see if he goes with the Spear Goblin version, and Igor with an easy King Tower activation to start off.
Fisherman coming out. Fisherman Hunter, a very popular combination these days.
We've talked a lot about, as I said before, JP being a big hitter, and that was both the part of his success and part of the struggles he had back in CRL EU with Dignitas a few seasons ago. Was great in King of the Hill, where a lot of those high-risk plays end up paying off, but in the 1v1 set only had a 38% win rate, and you often saw him getting punished for making those big plays, especially in situations where it was game number 2 of those 1v1s.
Yeah, there just seems to be a little bit more calm in the 1v1 sets, even though more is on the line. It seems like it's harder for JP to kind of shock his opponent into making a mistake, which is why those high-risk, high-reward plays are really exciting, but ended up not paying off as the season went on.
Well, maybe a big part of that, Andrew, is that 1v1 was set number 2 that season, as opposed to where it's set number 3 now.
Yeah.
So when the pressure was on, he was able to do that in King of the Hill as the 3rd set back in EU, whereas it's a little bit different here.
Right now, IMJP in a lot of trouble. As you can see, yes, he's only behind by about 300 damage, but with the Fisherman, with the Ewiz, with the cheap Skeletons, the Hunter, the Mega Knight, there are so many responses on the board to deal with that Hog Rider.
Yeah, I mean, look, you put in the Stab Goblins specifically in case you are running against Graveyard, it's one of the reasons why you put them in, but when you're in a situation where there's so many responses to Hog, unless you can outcycle, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble. So here we go, next Graveyard in, but the Mega Knight not tanking for the GY.
And what's going to be fascinating about this is IMJP has already made a very clear decision in how he wants to play the rest of this game. He wants to defend heavy. He wants to spend all of his elixir on the front end and take poison damage. Conversely, he wants to only add spell damage to his opponent's tower. So this is going to be really interesting, because if you talk straight spell power, IMJP wins this, but I don't know how he's going to defend these pushes for the next 2.5 minutes.
I don't know if he'll have to, Andrew. We'll see if he can defend one really well, and this time you see he varies. Before he played the Goblins high, this time he plays them low, and keeps him enough out of the poison to get pretty decent value. He's going to come a little bit lower than he thought. I bet that he wanted to end up more around 500, 600 HP on that right-hand side, and this is where he does get into pretty significant trouble.
Yeah, now he can't spell cycle out. There's no way he's going to be able to get around enough times with only 440 damage on his tower, because his opponent's going to go for those spells, right? His opponent's going to go for those poisons, because look, there's the value right there.
Yeah, easy value there. So Hog Rider coming in with the Mega Knight distracted. Ewiz to slow things down. Snowball trying to make room, and IMJP going for it, and he's holding on here. 257 is not enough yet. Igor going to have to get some more on the board. JP could pull this one out.
Yeah, really nice Snowball there to add that extra hog hit in the high bomb tower to keep the Ewiz off the board with that splash damage. Great decision making here. Now, how will this Hog Rider fare?
Solid hog to the inside, and it does get a shot. Andrew, that's absolutely huge.
Oh my goodness.
JP gonna try to cycle his way out of this one. Can he beat the graveyard? Log into the right-hand side, 50 HP remaining, and the Fisherman goes all the way in. Igor steals the win.
Devastating. You see, I mean, at that moment, all you can do as IMJP is kind of smile that one off. So very close there. You love that he immediately saw the matchup and goes, I know what I need to do. I need to start cycling my spells, and I need to triple, quadruple down here on defense. And he did a really excellent job of it for a long time. He varied up his the way he wanted to play his defense, but unfortunately for him, that variation on the second big graveyard push with the goblins up high just was not the answer.
And you see the hog going to the inside here because the hunter comes to the outside to predict, and that's what gets him the one shot. This two very creative plays out of JP at the end when he knew he couldn't win it by spell cycle. One to respond to the Mega Knight, maybe early cycled a bit by Igor, and two to go high and inside, try to sneak it past him, but in the end couldn't get it enough on tower. Man, that was insanely close here. This has been a good one so far, Andrew, between Team Liquid and Team Queso.
Oh, it's been fantastic. And you know what was so impressive about that was that IMJP made Igor use every one of his responses. He had the Fisherman in the center, he had the Hunter to the right, and then he had to drop the Mega Knight also in the center of those two units. So IMJP running into every answer in the book, but still making his opponent work for it. That's what I loved about that. His opponent still had to work so hard to barely take the W. If I'm Team Queso and if I am IMJP today, this was the biggest day for him so far and really promising as he moves into the second half of the season.
Yeah, he played brilliantly. He played brilliantly and got his job done, by the way. Got the win, and now we're all evened up. One down for Team Liquid, one down for Team Queso. And here's where we see a bit of a switch, Andrew. We'll see the lineups again here in just a minute. Ruben moved out of the number 2 spot into the number 3 spot here. So a bit of a shift overall in the lineup. How do you feel about moving their superstar back into the anchor position?
I like it. And the reason I like it is because Ruben's been playing so well that if he is in that first or second spot, it wouldn't be surprising to see him go 1, 2, 3, or at least 1, 2. Either way, he's probably going to pick up a game win, show another one of his hands, get him a little more tired out, whatever it may be. Just save him. If you don't need to use him, just save him. He's going to win.
So up next for Team Queso, it is Benny who did not play in the King of the Hill lineup last week. It was Kuchiku closing things out in King of the Hill, setting Ruben up for that 1v1 set. Benny who, just like his 2v2 partner Kuchiku, has been with Team Queso for a very long time, going back to before the CRL season in 2018.
Yeah, and just to kind of talk a little bit more about what I was saying there is that, Ruben's already picked up 7 game wins in King of the Hill. You know he's a home run hitter. If you don't have to use him, if you can save those decks, if you can let him stay warm on the bench, just do those things instead. Let your other guys get out there and pick up wins.
And well, here's the big one too, is that you actually, I think that as, obviously you do not want to sacrifice this King of the Hill set, but getting Igor into 2 games here and burning a couple of decks, it does put a little more pressure on him if we do end up going to the 3rd and final set.
Yeah, agreed. And these analysts, that's a big part of the way they make their money is they want to see what their opponents run, if they cycle decks, what they're more comfortable with. So maybe narrowing down the options as we get into that 1v1 set, playing the long game right here is Team Queso.
A really interesting version of Hog Triple Spell for Benny who, going with the Inferno Tower and the Archers rather than a more traditional construction. And against the Royal Hogs, this feels like a pretty bad situation for the Queso player.
Yeah. I mean, the Archer's probably in there to maybe help with Graveyard, help improve the cycle if he is playing against a Graveyard deck. So the Archers would be on the back end with the Skeletons, maybe pull out a Poison. But that being said, your opponent would have spent so much, they'd have a really difficult time dealing with your Hog Rider push back on offense. So I think that's the idea of this deck construction. Unfortunately for him, his opponent's not running Graveyard, he's running Royal Hogs.
And you can see Benny, who just head in his hands, there's a despondent look on his face, or a resigned look is probably a better choice of word here. Just knows that it's so hard for him to break through and almost impossible for him to play defense.
Yeah, because even in his best spell here, the Earthquake, look at how much has to come out for just a little bit of damage, and his opponent, full on Elixir, could go Hogs. Yep, he does. He goes Royal Hogs again in the right-hand lane.
Yeah, this has just been absolutely brutal. You'd love to have Bomb Tower in this situation. You absolutely would love to have Bomb Tower, and you go take a kind of off-meta construction of a very popular meta deck, and this is the result.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is he doesn't need another big spell. If he just had Bomb Tower to kind of pull them to the center and do a little bit of splash damage, the Archers would be able to help enough, or the Skeletons. Just not the deck that Benny wanted to come out with today, and you can see Igor here again piling it on the right-hand lane, trying to get those crowns, earn those crowns, and maybe taking a little bit of map control on that left-hand side as well.
Look, Igor's been known for playing the same deck back-to-back over and over again, especially this year in particular. So that really feels like it was Team Liquid or Team Queso going for a snipe with that call, saying, hey, you know what, we bet he'll do it again. Let's put the Inferno Tower there to control the Mega Knight, and let's put the Archers in there for the Graveyard, and just the snipe call not getting one-upped by Team Liquid switching things up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the battle of the analysts there at Team Queso probably feeling pretty smart about going into this game, but then, of course, Team Liquid's analyst fires back and goes, look, if they think this, then how can we really punish them? And that's a really great example. If that was actually the series of events that happened, and you think about what Igor likes to do in running back-to-back decks, this is truly a counter-snipe. There is no way for Igor to lose this game other than horrible misplays throughout.
So now we're going to go into our fourth game, and this is interesting, Andrew, because we talked about Team Queso maybe having the advantage of some of the head-to-head play, but now Ruben has to beat both Igor and Razor, and then regroup and come back out for the 1v1. It's going to be difficult because right now they are back to the wall, Team Liquid winning that 2v2 set.
Yeah, and if you talk about Team Queso, this really is a better case situation, right? Like, obviously, best case is first guy out, sweeps, you move on, you win the match, and you move on to the third set. But this really is better case. You talk about IMJP coming in, picking up a great game win, coming in his second game, barely losing with a bad matchup. You get someone that comes in the middle, that, you know, probably your third best 1v1 player. They play pretty well, I guess. Obviously, a horrible matchup there as well. That's what you want. So for Team Queso, they've already kind of got what they want out of the King of the Hill set from the rest of their squad. It's still so much pressure on Ruben to bring home 2 sets to win the match.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, and Igor, of course, being a little unpredictable right now, so it makes that analysis job for Team Queso really hard. They know they can't go for a snipe now. They know it's snipe, counter-snipe, so now they have to just go with what do they think Ruben can outplay with, and this is one of the hardest outplay matchups he's going to have throughout the entire season, because if we talk about a list of truly S-tier players, it's really about on one hand at this stage, and 2 of those 5 fingers are in this game right now.
Yeah, if I'm Ruben right now, I run a straight-up control deck that can have great responses to almost everything other than just straight-up beatdown, because straight beatdown is not something you see a lot out of Igor, and I think, well, I was going to say, I think we might see Mortar.
And it looks like Ruben going right back to what his teammate just played, so it's Mortar bait, maybe, and no, not the Skeleton Barrel version with those bats, unless he's going with a different variation. Mortar bait for Igor, Hog triple spell for Ruben.
Yeah, and those bats could be a very, very interesting piece to this matchup, because it does take away the value of one of Ruben's spells. You know, playing against that other Skelly Barrel deck, you know exactly where each one of your spells needs to land. Now he has to save that snowball just for the bats.
Yeah, it's going to be a more like the version of Mortar Bait that you used to run here, though, Andrew, with the Rascals in and Hog behind the Knight to the left-hand side. EQ will take care of this pretty easily, feeling like a pretty good matchup so far for Ruben.
Yeah, looking really nice here. Actually, honestly, for both these guys, I would still give it to Ruben, like you said. Great quick cycle there. The EQ is always a pain to deal with. And of course, the amount of spells he has really will help with the Rascals and those bats. That being said, Igor, a master of this deck, it cycles pretty quickly, and you do have the ability to get that mortar down on defense every single time and also create offensive pressure. It's just about avoiding that earthquake.
I was going to say, good catch there with the skeletons and a nice high snowball on those bats. This is a huge push, Andrew.
Yeah, that is a really, really nice snowball coming in. 2 hog hits at least here for Igor to deal with. And if that third one comes in, he's in trouble.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
And it was a great decision by Ruben to not double down on the defense against the miner. Knew he has a few, HP is a resource. We talked about it before. Knew that he could play the skeletons on the miner, give a couple shots, and get a positive elixir trade to create the counter push. That's what he did. And that's going to be tower down on the left-hand side. So now Igor has to fight exclusively in this right-hand lane.
Yeah, and ever since that very, very first hit with those bats coming in and having the slightest bit of value, there has not been a moment for Igor to get anything out of him because that snowball has been locked and ready to go each time. Now you see Igor going for desperation mortar plays, Rascals at the river, fireball on top of the miner that's sent into the front, trying to pick up anything and everything he can. This is a lost game for Igor because he just got straight up outplayed by Ruben in this one.
Yeah, and, fireball going to hope that whatever gets picked up there, but it was archers down below. Igor going to put some pressure on here, try to find some way on tower, but it's not going to be enough in time. Ruben comes up big here for Team Queso and going to add some crowns here, some fantasy value. Can we get some garbage time crowns? Not gonna happen, doesn't matter. The dub goes to Ruben, and we're going to Game 5 King of the Hill.
Yeah, and Igor still gives the well played there, I think, because even though he knows that Ruben has a favorable matchup, Ruben still had really, really exciting and great moments there that any great player could recognize and kind of give credit to. And a lot of it, again, was about controlling the game and where those bats got value, and then, of course, getting those earthquakes in with the hog to make sure that Igor had to either sacrifice a ton of tower damage to get a little bit of offensive presence or stop what he was doing offensively right dead in his tracks to play defense.
I'm not sure what replay picked up in the booth, we'll see, but that Skeletons play on the miner, the very cheap defense, and so you see the cheap defense was spent just beforehand, and then that's giving you enough elixir to have the snowball to play as part of this push. This was the big swing push, and it started by playing really, really comfortable, controllable defense with those skeletons on the miner and not overcommitting.
And that wasn't an accident, right? That was not an accident that Ruben spent all of that and went down to 0. I mean, he spent 10 straight elixir on the knight, plus the hog, plus the earthquake, because he knew what his opponent had in response. He knew it was the bats up high, he knew it was the mortar down low, and he knew if he dealt with both of those, there was no way for Igor to actually stop the Hog Rider from getting 3 massive hits.
Yeah, and we never got into the mortar versus earthquake game here, right? There was never any of the gamesmanship of varied mortar placements, making the Hog Rider guess, making the earthquake guess. And in the end, it was a pretty solid control there for Ruben the whole way through. So now we go to Game 5, King of the Hill, for the King Killer, Razor, to come out in one of the most important spots he'll have on the season. Best of 1 to try to get their first win for Team Liquid. Already a great 2v2. How do you feel about Razor in this matchup against Ruben?
For someone who I have a ton of faith in and someone who's so good, I don't have a lot right now. I think it would be a great moment for him. I think if anyone could do it, Razor's one of those guys that can take home a set any day of the week. The problem is Ruben's been playing so well, and he also knows that this is a very high-pressure game, and Ruben really isn't affected that much by pressure. I think this is definitely in favor of him, but that being said, Razor can do anything.
Razor can do anything, has before, of course, his opening run in CRL NA back in 2018, was the stuff that legends are made of, a big part of why Razor is so well respected. He does have the advantage here of a loss in this set, means they still go to 1v1. Ruben is back to the wall. This feels like a season-defining moment for Razor and Team Liquid overall.
Yeah, I love that you say that. That's a really, really great way to put it. Was Razor worth it? All the effort, all the money, all the trades. This is a moment where Razor really shows Team Liquid, a squad that he's wanted to be on since day 1, that they made the correct decision. Look, man, I took the 2v2 and I won your King of the Hill. Let's go. But that still has a lot in front of him with Ruben. I mean, Ruben is unstoppable.
Yeah, Ruben is absolutely brutal. Razor does have one of the top 10 win rates in King of the Hill at 57% and 4 career sweeps. So no slouch in King of the Hill himself. Numbers pretty even, though, for him overall throughout his career. Ruben, 75% win rate in this set.
Razor right now looking like he may be going graveyard.
It might be RG here for Ruben. We'll see. First minute of gameplay away. No damage on either side, or no significant damage. Battle healer for Ruben. Very curious to see how she functions today with that new hover mechanic. You see her not going around the King Tower, instead going over it.
Yeah, it'll be really, really interesting. You know, the Royal Ghost, it feels like, is a straight up buff. The Battle Healer, I've heard, is kind of on the fence because it was really, really nice to have the Battle Healer be so predictable in its movement path that you could really, really put together those dirty E-Golem pushes with the Battle Healer right where you wanted her at all times.
So it might actually be Royal Giant for Razor and E-Golem here for Ruben. We'll see as we get deeper into this one. First minute and a half away. And no one breaking through to the second level in any significant way.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the calls that you just threw out there. You see that Ewiz come in, but instead, Ruben going with Battle Healer Graveyard, and actually a pretty cool combination if you think about those skeletons tanking for what's coming across the river. If it's all getting healed by the Battle Healer, it could be a dangerous new combination.
Yeah, I think I've seen this a few times. It's not super popular in CRL, obviously, but the Battle Healer mixed in with the Ewiz Graveyard, it's popped up here and there. It's a big question of how do you of trying to win those bridge battles.
Yeah, maybe because of the way that the Battle Healer's changed, that's the new reason why we might start seeing it more regularly, is to help assist in those bridge battles that aren't so kind of funneled into one area.
And Razor goes with the 8 Elixir push on the left-hand side. We'll get some pretty decent damage and force out 7 Elixir in defense that side as well.
Yeah, -1 trade and a little bit of damage here. Their Battle Healer being played off to the right now, working its way towards the tower.
And the Baby Dragon doesn't survive. A second one does come down, so we'll control that right-hand side fairly well. So far, it has been Ruben controlling this game fairly well. Sudden death overtime. Not a big difference in damage on both sides, but so far it is Team Queso in the lead.
Yeah, and if I'm Razor, I'm probably going to start to feel a little bit nervous. You know, with over 3 minutes of gameplay being had, and with the fact that he's put up basically 0 damage, and his opponent's deck is way heavier, I'd start to be getting pretty nervous if I was Razor. I mean, you look at how heavy Ruben's deck is, and it's just going to get better and better as time goes on.
Well, it's so hard for him to deal with the Battle Healer when she does get in play, and hard for the Ewiz as well. He can't really get to those directly in a way that gets them off the board. And part of that is the pairing that they're being put in right now. You'll see here one more time. That E was going to stay on a little bit longer than Razor would have liked, and the Battle Healer helping set the line high.
Yeah, and look at that. The Mega Minion on the Battle Healer that whole time. A late Mega Minion comes down for Ruben, but that DPS, that single target DPS, is where Razor is really hurting with this matchup. He's only got basically the Mega Minion to get on top of anything beefy.
Final minute of overtime. Razor trying to pressure the opposite lane. Graveyard goes right into a poison. Pretty easy and inexpensive defense for Ruben on the left-hand side as he piles it on the right.
Yeah, I mean, that might have been it for Razor right there. He might have just kind of sealed his own fate. Putting that big of a push on the right-hand side with a cheap 2 Elixir plus response defensively is really going to help Ruben here get a little bit more damage in. And with such little time left, it feels impossible for Team Liquid to make it out of this alive.
Second Battle Healer down. That Battle Healer was such a nuisance for Razor the entire way through. He had to face with her most of the time, and that's the last thing you want to do with the Battle Healer, is go give her the chance to heal herself and her compatriots as well. Absolute devastation. Ruben gonna go ahead and clutch up King of the Hill. 2 games to send this thing to the 1v1.
And a frustrating matchup here for Razor, as you can kind of see. Like, that last battle healer came down on the river again at the end with maybe 8 seconds left, and he was just like, I obviously couldn't tell what he was saying, but he was probably just like, what the heck, man? They're relentless. They're non-stop. How is this deck that expensive, and how is there always another battle healer coming down on the board? So maybe, just maybe now, the ability to put that battle healer where you need her, when you need her, and preserve her HP a little bit longer with the way that she now moves on the board is something that Ruben has figured out, kind of cracked that code, because that looked like a really, really frustrating deck to play against.
Well, this change to Battle Healer, also what it might mean is the E-Golem Battle Healer gets a bit of a nerf, but this particular Graveyard deck, which people toyed with in the past, gets a bit of a buff. So, as you can see, it's so many things that protect. We talked about trying to face-to-face. It was so hard to get to the Battle Healer and E-Wiz both. So much frustration to deal with. Pretty easy win here for Ruben.
Yeah, and you saw right there, Razor on defense was just pouring Elixir into a push that would have died otherwise. That battle healer with a sliver of HP keeps it alive, keeps the baby dragon alive, helps the Mega Minion on the back end. Just so much damage healed by that battle healer. So an interesting new kind of wrinkle in this deck that we've seen a couple times, but not really to any success. Well, Razor did it in 2v2, Rich, not able to do it in King of the Hill. Were you really that surprised to see Ruben take this to the third set?
No, I mean, you're never surprised to see Ruben take it to the third set. He's 9-1 in King of the Hill right now. He's overall, I think he's 12-3 overall in the season in head-to-head play. He's the best player in head-to-head Clash Royale right now. I mean, he might be the best player in CRL right now overall, but we never see him in 2v2. But what he's doing right now this season, I think it's a race between Ruben and Sam, maybe, for the top spot.
I mean, he's the only guy that I put on my fantasy lineup this week that is not pulling a doubleheader, and it's exactly because of what we just saw. He can come out in any match at any moment and get you at least a few crowns, and that's the kind of person you want for Fantasy Royale. That's the kind of guy that's going to get you that 250,000 gold, that 100 gems, is a guy like Ruben. He doesn't need to be in the 2v2. He just needs to be on a team because he's always going to show up and put up those numbers. So It's always so hard for me to just say I think he's the best in the world right now, but maybe he just is, dude. He's so good.
Yeah, I mean, he's phenomenal, and it makes you wonder what might have happened if Team Queso had committed to really going powerhouse this season and done everything they could to keep Azealis on the squad. Because you think about how good Ruben is and how much Ruben has carried. How long will this last? How long can he keep playing like this, keep getting these beautiful, beautiful wins? If you had just a bit more power in 2v2 and didn't give up arguably the top 2v2 player in the league right now over to Tribe Gaming, how good is Team Queso overall this season?
Scary good. And they're probably kicking themselves a little bit because they weren't really able to find that key for Azealis. He just didn't seem to have a great home when he was over there. And you know, obviously his 2v2 success has come later in his career. So definitely a hindsight is 2020 moment. You look back in retrospect, you're like, man, the one place where we struggled the most, we had a guy that was just locked in, but at the same time, he wasn't that same guy with them. So got to move on, got to kind of, you know, double down, invest in your future, which is Razor. And I think if you are Team Liquid today was a good moment for them.
Yeah, a big moment, and here's the match everyone wanted to see. There's only one thing you're tuning in for when you see Team Queso and Team Liquid. Sure, there's going to be some good 2v2, exciting King of the Hill, but this is what you want. This is a marquee matchup. It doesn't get much better than this. Igor, Ruben, best of 3 to decide the match. Let's go.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Yes.
I know.
And right back to it.
Yeah, you gotta imagine he's doing that exact same Graveyard deck one more time. Of course, it'd be interesting to see if Ruben gives a different look to Igor in this first game.
And Igor going Lumberloon opposite lane. He knows that Barb Hut is out of cycle. Will this E-Wiz be enough?
And the Rage does give a connection, but a pretty significant counter push coming in, not going to be quite enough. The Battle Healer comes behind, so instead of going Graveyard, goes Battle Healer, and this is going to force a lot of elixir from Igor on the right.
Yeah, Igor might have just gotten away by the skin of his teeth with that great snowball. You see the archers and, of course, those guards being dropped one on top of the other, and you knew with the splash damage coming in, he was going to be in trouble.
But look at that Battle Healer just going to town on the right-hand side and a massive Graveyard push on the left. That's going to be towered down for Igor on that left-hand side. Trying to go balloon cheap on the right. Mega Minion, easy defense here. Ruben went a bit risky to open up with the barb hut, but knew he could defend well enough to create some nasty pressure on the right-hand side.
I mean, look at this deck, dude. It's basically just put your foot on the gas and never look back. Just pour units down, drop them down at the river, drop them down in the pocket, be aggressive as you can possibly be, and your opponent just cannot deal with it. He gets overwhelmed. I mean, that battle healer got so much elixir out of Igor on the right-hand side that he just had to ignore the graveyard on the left.
And look at Ruben just relaxing now, sitting back and setting up on defense, waiting for Igor to make the move. That's a great decision there, not to try to put pressure on himself, and now it's going to be a Lumberloon push on the left-hand side. But the E-Wiz and the Mega Minion not going to be needed here, although might come in at the end to block.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to take the bomb drop here because he knows that he can, take the damage. Now, obviously, the freeze is going to add a bit of a wrinkle.
Doesn't quite get the next drop. So Lumberloon freeze for Igor. Cannot quite get the tower down on the left-hand side. That was razor thin.
I mean, here's the thing. Even if he did take that tower down, I don't know how he would have dealt with what we're seeing on the board at this moment. Baby Dragon completely healthy. 2 Mega Minions basically completely healthy. He-Wiz completely tanked for. Even if that tower goes down from Igor, he had to spend so much for so little.
Baby Dragon on that right-hand tower. Balloon in for Igor on the left. Ruben gonna pick it up with the Barb Hut. And with 15 seconds left, don't know if there's any chance. And the E-Wiz on the outside. Igor trying to make room. Will the E-Wiz stop the balloon? Will the balloon drop? Oh, just barely doesn't get it. Ruben takes game number 1.
Yeah, that E-Wiz dropped out to the side. Smart decision in the beginning, avoids the freeze, but then he goes and takes a walk away from the balloon. Ooh, it looked really close there for a minute, but Igor does not take the tower. Great plays from a dirty deck out of Ruben and Team Queso.
The snowball nearly made it happen, Andrew. That snowball just didn't quite push the E-Wiz far enough away, and that was just a hair that balloon could not get on. It still felt like it would have been a win for Ruben in sudden death overtime, but those of you who picked Ruben for fantasy may be sitting there going, oh, just let that connect and give me 1 extra crown.
Yeah, and this is that very, very first defense that was played by Igor. You saw how much he had to spend here, how low he is on elixir with how much his opponent has on the board. So what does his opponent do? He sits back, he waits for these barbs to cross the river for his graveyard.
And you can see the graveyard now in, and Igor with 4 elixir kind of getting frozen here for a second and chooses to try to go the opposite direction and go for a tower trade, but E-Wiz, Mega Minion. Both of those 2 very inexpensive options that will mitigate a lot of, if not all of that, major balloon damage. And this was the end. You saw Igor go for it, but look at this. The snowball just doesn't quite get the E-Wiz far enough away and misses that drop by a hair.
Yeah, I mean, that E was really putting in some overtime for Ruben, getting that last little zap in to stun that balloon. That was it. That was the whole thing there. As you said, most likely goes to Ruben. Then it becomes a 2 or 3 tower game, which, of course, his fantasy owners, myself being one of them, a little bummed out about, but he made all the right decisions. He let Igor go heavy on offense when he wanted, and then he turned around and punished him. Really, really punished him by just dropping units in the pocket. Mega Minion on Mega Minion, Battle Healer at the bridge. All those units are so beefy as well. You look at the Mega Minion, the Battle Healer, the Baby Dragon, the Barb Hut. That's a lot of HP on the board.
Yeah, it's too much to deal with, and so far we've now seen 2 games of Ruben versus Igor this season. 2 times to Ruben. It doesn't just feel like Ruben's winning. It feels like he has Igor's number.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Let's hop into the second game here. 3rd of the day for these 2 gentlemen. Igor back against the wall. He throws out the good luck. Ruben, match point here for Team Queso.
Wow. Ruben is so darn good. It really is insane because we talk about the micro, but the macro for Ruben. And at that opening defense on the balloon, he threw down. We've seen the bomb tower come down so many times, the barb hut come down, played early so many times, an immediate punish opposite lane. Ruben knew his cycle very well and knew he would take some damage, but the way he turned it into more the opposite direction was massive.
And also, let's talk about Ruben. Let's talk about the cards we've seen him use today. Who used Royal Ghost for the first time? Who used Battle Healer for the first time? Who's winning right now? He's figured out a way to adjust to the meta and take advantage of it.
Adjust to it very, very early, very, very quickly, and that's part of what makes him so good. Here we go. A little bit of a bridge battle in this one.
Yeah,
and
looking
more
like
coming through for Ruben in this one.
Yeah, looking a lot like what could become a mirror matchup here. And a little miss there from Igor. I think he would have been able to hit both those units.
First minute 20 away, and Royal Ghost again. And this is interesting. The Royal Ghost behind King Tower, but that's a very different path than we're used to seeing the Royal Ghost take because of that hover mechanic. I wonder how long we'll see that cycle behind King Tower continue to be the play.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Goes to the closest unit on the board, so obviously going to change the trajectory a little bit, not having to stay on those tiles, and still going to be the left-hand tower if you cycle on the left-hand side. So it's going to be really interesting to watch how that unit moves now.
We'll see if Ruben chooses to protect this Inferno Dragon, and it's a beautiful, beautiful fireball. We'll get a little bit of burn, maybe one tick on the left-hand side, 23-42 remains. Igor setting up with the Hunter on the left-hand lane.
Really, really nice fight.
You see the E-Wiz come in low from Igor, and because of the bar barrel, doesn't get on the Inferno Dragon at all. Absolutely wild. Beautiful bar barrel out of the Spaniard, and now a lot of trouble for Igor in the left-hand lane.
And look, here's the thing. Ruben's still going to get a ton of damage, but Ruben doesn't even care about this push anymore. He just goes, wow, Igor made so many mistakes. He's down in Elixir. He's down on defense. He has to play catch-up now. A really great moment there for Ruben. You see him setting up in the back. Royal goes first, now Mega Knight. He goes, I've got this in the bag.
Pitching a shutout here as we go into sudden death overtime. Neither tower touched for Ruben, and again the E-Wiz just not doing a thing for Igor.
Yeah, it's almost like he baited out the different, like the separation of units there so he could get so much fireball value in. He throws in the barb, E-Wiz comes down to defend it. Igor there for a minute goes, all right, I figured out the way you want to do this. No, no, no. Ruben goes to fireball on top of all three and the tower. Just devastating.
He's just playing on another level right now, Andrew. He really is, and
he's untouched, dude. He's untouched right now.
And you see cycling the Mega Knight in the back is Ruben. Igor has not turned this into any offense yet. Minute 20 remaining in sudden death overtime. Team Queso very close to a reverse sweep on the back of their superstar.
And look at that. Barbs. Oh my gosh. Again, this battle of the E-Wiz has got to be messing with Igor's psyche, and on top of just destroying him. Every single E-Wiz he's dropped down, the last 3 or 4, have worked in his opponent's favor.
Yeah, it's completely insane. Good fireball value.
Make
one more time.
5.
Wow. Absolute wow. Royal Ghost gets taken off by the Hunter, but Igor with 49 seconds left needs to just sell out and make something happen. So far, it's been nothing. Graveyard in, and you do have the Mega Knight tanking, but Igor's going to take care of that Graveyard with the Bar Barrel.
Yeah, I mean, you see that Ruben Bar Barrel comes in. E-Wiz up high, getting damage on the front end, damage on the back end. Now Ram Rider Push coming in with a massive bit on the front and back end, and a clinic put on by Ruben against one of the best in the world. And also, Igor played one of his mortar decks today. So Ruben, as you said, on another level.
Yeah, and you can see the excitement there from Ruben. And look, I'm not reading chat today. I don't know if the chat's saying that we're biased towards Ruben in these matchups in our commentary here. I don't know if that's come up once or not. It's not biased. He's playing the best Clash Royale of anybody in the West right now, bar none. We are watching greatness happen. And the one thing I want to see, Andrew, is I want to see Queso qualify for Worlds so I can see Ruben and Mugi from Ponos go head-to-head.
I mean, if you talk about guys like that, like Ruben, Mugi, I still throw Javi in that conversation, and I can never discount, of course, LCOP because of how storied he is. But yeah, man, you talk about marquee matchups, you talk about things that we want to see at World Finals because of crossing these two leagues and seeing the best of the best. This is exactly what we're talking about. I think if anyone on the East is watching the West, which I know all of them are, every single one of them is terrified of Ruben.
Dude, if Ruben and Mugi don't get matched up in Worlds, I'll put together a prize pool to make that happen. We'll make it a best of 7 so we can see those guys really swing for the fences. Unbelievable. Great play by Ruben top to bottom, and the pressure that's been put on him over and over again. Let's not just talk about the skill set. Let's not just talk about the excellent management of both the macro and the micro in all of these games. Doing it under such insane pressure when, I mean, get this kid a back brace and a bag of ice because he has been carrying so hard in the biggest pressure situations.
I mean, he's been the guy that's taken them out of the King of the Hill set 3 out of the 4 times they've made it. And then he goes on to carry that greatness in that 1v1 set. The only person who's got the best of it this season has been Javi 14. And he beat him in King of the Hill, but Javi turned around in the 1v1 set. So if those are the guys, if that's the only guy in the other league who has even made you sweat for a moment, that just speaks of how great you really are. Yes, we're biased towards Ruben? No, dude. We're looking at the numbers. We're looking at the gameplay. We're looking at what he's done for his squad, basically by himself after they get through that 2v2 set, and it's just something you can't ignore.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And then on the other side, Andrew, what does Team Liquid do at this stage? They finally got the 2v2 win. It felt like the 2v2 win would give Team Liquid the advantage. You and I both picked them today because of that specifically. But Team Liquid now falling to 1-3. And I don't know if this puts them out yet, but it does mean that their second matchup tomorrow is a must win against Pain.
If this weren't their 4th match, Rich, I'd say I'm not worried about them. They seemed great today. They did a good job in 2v2. They ran into Ruben in 1v1. They did a good job going back and forth in King of the Hill. That's not the case, though. They're now 1-3 with the chance of going 1-4 by the end of tomorrow. This is kind of a panic button mode for Team Liquid. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm pushing that button a lot at this moment because nothing is working out for them.
Well, they've got 2v2 pretty well locked down, right? Or at least they've got 2v2. At least they're not worried about it anymore the same way they were. They've cleaned up the 2v2 situation. They feel okay about it. King of the Hill is a nightmare right now for Team Liquid.
Yeah, so guys, break time battles. Let's check out and see how our boy Guerrero fares against Saint Belican, and then we'll be back up with our second match of the day.
So an exciting back and forth battle as we take a look at downtown Paris. You will not be seeing our one Parisian today. That will be tomorrow when Tribe Gaming comes out. So far, though, so good. Team Liquid with a great start. Team Queso, Team Ruben with a huge reverse sweep. And now we move into another very important battle for both of these teams. Chivas Esports, despite performing very well, Andrew, still looking for their first win of the season against Dignitas, who are overperforming a bit, and a big part of that has been the improved gameplay of their young star Bale.
Yeah, young star Bale, and to even take that one step farther, is the head-to-head play. That's where everything falls apart for Chivas. They've actually won 2 of their 2v2 sets, which is something that a lot of other squads that aren't at the very top of the rankings haven't done. What they can't do, though, is seem to win a King of the Hill set, or at least not run into a lot of trouble in the King of the Hill set. They've gotten swept twice already, and in that other one, they did go to Game 5. They still lost in King of the Hill, but it's always been one person on the other squad that's kind of been their kryptonite on any given day. Whether it was their first match, TNT, their second Igor, or of course, most recently in the God RF. So for them, it's all about head-to-head, the bread and butter of Clash Royale. Can their 1v1 guy step up today, and who will it be?
Yeah, I mean, you have the veteran Adrian Piedra, who's up and down in this stage in his career, and you have Kevin, who I just don't know if it's a nerve situation or what it is, does not feel like he's ready for this level quite yet. And, you know, it does take you back a little bit to Anaban, who is stepping away from competitive play for the moment, and Richard, who had some big King of the Hill performances. You got to wonder if one of those two guys might have been the better call over Kevin. We'll see. Let's jump into it. Chivas Esports against Dignitas.
Bueno, un partido muy interesante también tenemos acá entre las Chivas y Dignitas. Dignitas viene ahí con ganas de seguir avanzando, se puede poner 3-1. Le puede estar complicando, sigue mareado. Qué buena la partida que estamos viendo. Es que no me la creo. Le pegó una vez el portero. GG, well play. Y Manu se la. Y las Chivas que bueno, están a punto, ya están jugando mucho mejor el 2 contra 2. Les falta el pequeño detalle. Yo no sé quién puede ganar, pero definitivamente hay que disfrutar de este partidazo.
All season long, they've struggled the entire time they've been an organization. They have to win this match, because if they do not only will it ruin the confidence for their squad moving forward, but there's basically no chance they're going to make it into playoffs unless they win out.
Pra finalizar o jogo, o tronco passa e é GG, Necão!
Chivas contra Dignitas. A Dignitas encontrou bons resultados recentes e acredita ser o favorito para essa batalha.
Vai tomar. Vai cair a torre, Decão! Caiu!
So one of our 3 winless teams so far, and Chivas Esports looks to be the first to move out of the Bagel Brigade with a win today over Dignitas. Andrew, we mentioned how they've been good in the head-to-head play, a lot of that being Bale, but it's going to be an interesting question to see if they can continue that form against Chivas, who's looked so good.
Yeah, Adrian Piedra, Diego B, Kevin R.A., and Pompeo. Most likely going to be Diego B and Pompeo in that 2v2 set, but those guys also seem to be their best head-to-head players. So caught between a rock and a hard place is Chivas Esports at 0-4 right now. Their opponents for the day being led by their rookie star Bale. Most recently has taken out some of the bigger names in the game of Igor and Pedro in his last 1v1 sets. You can see him there on your far left. Following that, Flash and Codigo believed to be the 2v2 today and moving forward. And of course, Lindsay, a guy that has really shown up very little this season, shown up just in that first 2v2, and of course once in King of the Hill. Where will he be, and will he find a true home for Dig, and do they really even need it right now?
Yeah, right now I think you're leaning on the veteran leader in Codigo, who has been solid in 2v2, 1-1 in sets overall, and of course had that big King of the Hill sweep. It looks like a 3-man game right now. Lindsay 0-3 to start his season. I think that if Codigo can get moving and Bale can play well, Dig has a great shot today.
And one thing that's really exciting here, if you're talking about Chivas Esports, is they're about to go 1, 2, and if they can, 3 in a row in this 2v2 set. And look, if you're struggling in that 1v1, or if you're struggling in head-to-head play, the best thing you can do is just continue to invest in your 2v2 duo, just to get that cushion, just to make sure you can get to that 3rd set.
Lava Hound push to the right-hand side, Inferno Tower down, and the Dark Prince is tanking for the Graveyard. Poison will clean things up behind on the left-hand side. So far, solid defense both directions, and a nice NATO to activate by Código.
Is that a tornado and 2v2? Is that okay? Is that not banned right now? Wow, shocking.
Yeah, I almost forgot what it was called in 2v2 for a second there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the most banned card by a mile in 2v2 is still the Tornado, and then Giant Skeleton.
Yeah, very interesting. Went through a tornado. It was Tornado, and I want to say it was either Tornado Rocket or Tornado Poison in our first season. That was pretty much the only thing ever banned. And here you go. Look at this. Look at this Lava Hound Electro Dragon look. So Chivas taking a page from the success of Team Liquid.
Yeah, I'm really curious if we're going to see more of this E-Drag showing up in 2v2. It's expensive, but you only need one, and it provides so much on the board. I love to see the E-Drag coming in, and also it's one of my favorite cards when you talk about interaction.
Yeah, it is pretty darn cool, and you don't see it a ton, and maybe the expectation here is with the slight Musketeer nerf while she's still strong, maybe they're expecting a slight reduction in this rise of lightning that we've seen.
That's a good point. Still able to reset, and then of course, if the Royal recruits, which we haven't seen at all yet today, are still even somewhat in the meta, the E-Drag is another great way to help deal with those.
Here we are into double elixir time, no significant damage either direction. Miner to pick up the Dark Prince, and another Lava Hound push setting up in the left-hand lane. Looks like this is where Chivas Esports wants the match to take place.
I mean, I could just be like putting my foot in my mouth here, but I really think that Miner should have maybe just let that damage come in on the left-hand side instead of using the Miner on defense. Take the shot from the Dark Prince, knowing that your opponent isn't going to want to keep going into your going into your Lava Hound push if they're running Graveyard. They would have had more offense to produce, or at least a little more help on defense there.
Yeah, it's so hard, though. You can see the damage on the right-hand side, 1371. Huge damage so far from Dignitas in the opening game. Pressure being placed by Código and Flash as we go into sudden death overtime. They are in a commanding lead.
I mean, the poison here from Pompeo and Diego has been kind of carelessly used throughout, not really getting that defense on the Graveyard that they'd like. They don't need to use it on offense yet. They haven't been getting enough out of using it on offense.
And the Musketeer does go down in time to keep the Electro Dragon on, but still no significant damage in from Pompeo and Diego B. And here you go. The cage does stop the tankage, so this will not be the finishing blow out of Dignitas. Graveyard comes in, Snowball cleans up, and now this seems like the big opportunity, the last opportunity, and with that damage, no opportunity. Dig takes game number one.
I mean, really poor defense being played by Diego and Pompeo, and maybe they just didn't have the correct responses because of what they set themselves up for early on in the match, but consistently using their own or their best Graveyard response to get a little more offense on the board, you know, by cleaning off maybe the Musketeer, maybe the Ice Wizard, just getting some damage in on that Baby Dragon. They never had it on defense, and they never had good defenses for those Graveyards. Just kind of a surprising set of decision-making there by Pompeo and Diego.
Yeah, curious to see. This was sort of the most out-of-sorts 2v2 we've seen from that pair so far, and you know, we talk about the must-win of 2v2 overall. It seems even more so for Chivas, given their head-to-head woes, Andrew.
Yeah, so here you see push coming across the river for Pompeo and Diego. There's that poison on offense again. It's on top of the Musketeer and essentially just the Princess Tower. I believe it got a Heal Spirit as well, but it's kind of negligible. Here we go, though. Back on offense goes Dignitas with the Dark Prince up front. The high cage is great, but then to add to their defensive woes here, look at the bottom of the map. Baby Dragon, Mega Minion, all drop directly on top of the Princess Tower. You know the freeze is going to come in, you know the poison's going to come in, and since Tornado's not banned, you can bring all those units right on top of the Princess Tower and get even more splash damage or poison values. So maybe they didn't have the correct responses after getting that poison out of cycle, but stop getting that poison out of cycle when you're playing against Graveyard.
And you know, a big win there for Flash and Código who, again, you talk about Cody Go, who's been in the league for a long time after narrowly missing World Finals in CRL Latin America. It's been a lot of struggles, and it really does feel like Dignitas and overall this collection of 4 players is finally having the season they'd hoped to have for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for Dignitas, I mean, since they haven't struggled as much as some of the other teams, maybe Pain is more so the Cinderella story. But for me, it actually feels like Dignitas is the Cinderella story with a good amount of promise at this point. I would have maybe said that about Pain had they not had the mental mistakes that cost them their only match win. But now you've got bad luck on your side as well as having a tough start to the season. If I'm talking about true Cinderella, I think it is Dignitas, and it's a lot of the things you're talking about, just like really kind of coming together when it hasn't ever worked before. And again, the standout play of their young guy has really helped them stay in the running.
Well, it's a big change from what we saw in the spring to what we've seen now out of Bale. And then, of course, finally getting in rhythm are Cody Go and Flash in 2v2. So it might have taken them a little while to get all calibrated properly for CRL West. But right now, Flash and Cody Go clicking fairly well. Bale finally in rhythm. We'll see if that continues. It's only game number 1 so far in this one, but it is Dignitas with the game advantage. 2 back-to-back set points coming up here for the Owls. Let's go ahead and jump in to game number 2 of our opening set.
You know, and one thing that's interesting as well is that they haven't used Lindsay a lot, and we've seen that. We've seen that with a handful of teams where one of their players plays very, very little in a season just because of happenstance, whether it's the way that they win or lose their matches or just the lineups for the day. They have a good amount of time to still get Lindsay going, and I don't think if you're him, you need to get discouraged quite yet.
Okay, this is a bunch of bananas all at once. So we're seeing Golem be played in 2v2, which we've barely seen since Season 1. And then Expo out from Dignitas. And what a brilliant... Maybe it was just that they were kind of lucky with what they had in Cycle there. Expo connects Lightning E-Wiz to clean that up on the right-hand side.
Yeah, Lightning E-Wiz, fair enough here in Elixir, and you got that Golem on the other side of the map. No, it won't get that big death damage, but of course the Golemites will just get a little bit here. And Expo back on the board.
And going to be very curious to see if any more Expos get connection. And also curious to see if Dignitas cares here. This might just be a control spell cycle situation for Dig. We might be here for a while.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a throwback here, seeing double Golem in 2v2, but I'm here for it. I'm excited to see what these other 8 cards are for Pompeo and Diego B.
You see just alternating, forcing out defensive plays. And I don't know how much, maybe once we get into double and or triple, we'll see defensive Expos put down in order to try to create enough defensive pressure to push the opposite direction. But right now, Cody Go and Flash just want to pressure with those Expos and force those defensive responses out quickly.
Yeah, and the nice thing here for Pompeo and Diego is since each of them are holding a Golem, Diego just needs to make sure that his Golem is not the one that they're needing to play at the same time that Expo comes down, that second Expo, right? So if Pompeo catches the first one with his Golem, then Diego can catch the second one with his Lightning and get tower damage in. So that's going to be a really, really tough thing for Flash and Cody Go to balance, is dealing with that Lightning damage coming in over and over.
And the Heal Spirit gets taken off by the log. Very, very important there for Dignitas, and that Expo's going to do just a little bit of damage on the left-hand side.
Yeah, nothing comes down in time to catch that Dark Prince popping. And Flash and Cody Go doing what we saw success in 2v2 with Expo from, I believe it was Cream in their first match, switching up the lanes regularly to keep your opponent from getting these big pushes in one specific spot.
Rocket trying to get value high, and it does get the E-Wiz and a lot of Prince damage. But now a decent little push coming in for Pompeo and Diego B on the right-hand side.
Yeah, Knight up high, but very little Elixir in hand. Baby Dragon getting redirected with that Ice Wiz plus Fireball. So back to safe, but down in Elixir.
Yeah, pretty significant advantage here for Pompeo and Diego B. We'll see if they set up, with some support troops in the back, not wanting to drop that Golem deep because of the Expos.
Yep, and you'll see right there, it was Diego that played the Prince, it was Pompeo that played the Golem, so that now Diego has enough Elixir and Lightning back in cycle, if that's something he wants to do.
And that NATO trying to pull all that together, both for the death damage from the Golem and for some Baby Dragon support as well. 90 seconds remain, and at the moment, it is Codigo and Flash with the lead, and they do have a lot of spell cycle available at the end, and that's a nice NATO cannon cart ready to pick it up on the opposite side.
Yeah, everyone saw it coming where the golem was played where it was, which is why you saw that immediate drop of the Goblin Cage as well from Pompeo. But their opponent's a little slow on the draw. They get that NATO out late. Already enough on the board to redirect or catch that redirected Expo.
Final minute. Can Pompeo and Diego break through enough to beat out the spell cycle that we know will be coming fast and furious at the end of this? Log, Fireball, 2 logs, a Fireball, a Rocket, and a Tornado for Dignitas.
And that was Diego B's goal. It just came down here, so going to be in a good spot to set up for Lightning if it comes in, which is why you see these buildings being staggered so far away from the Princess Tower. But the difficulty with that is that their opponents are going to play these high DPS units up high to help deal with that Tesla.
Prince does get picked up by the skeletons, but forcing a lot of expenditure out on the right-hand side is Diego and Pompeo. Rocket comes into the left-hand side. Right now, it is Chivas in the lead. We're going to get into a spell cycle race here. 2 logs on the left. Fireball, Tornado coming in. 581, but a huge baby dragon belch clutches things up. Pompeo and Diego B take game number 2.
Yeah, what a great NATO there at the end. Bring that all together. Get that baby dragon belch in. Clean up the DPS on the board. Nice damage comes in from Pompeo and Diego B. And that was just a great, great battle. Back and forth all throughout. Just who is going to stay alive longer. And we're all even going into game 3.
And it was a great choice by Pompeo and Diego to just make sure the action was forced on the right-hand side. They did not want to give any extra log value to that left-hand lane, and you saw how much spell cycling that Codigo and Flash had to do on the left at the end, dropping 2 logs over there, doing everything they could to try to stay in it, but it meant that they were split very, very well, so good heads-up play by Diego B and Pompeo to put the pressure on the right-hand side.
And I think about what Diego and Pompeo are running, and it's a really, really great response to a lot of decks that we're seeing in the meta right now, whether it's, you know, Balloon Freeze with Graveyard or without Graveyard, Graveyard in general, you know, but the other part of it is that this double Golem deck wasn't really run much when Triple Elixir was a thing. So now that Triple Elixir is a thing, the matches are a little bit shorter than they, you know, when we saw so much double Golem, double Lava Hound in 2017, I think it does make this deck a little bit more viable again. I mean, Rich, if you look at it, it's got great responses to all the most popular win conditions in our 2v2.
And a nice NATO there just to cap off the victory on the right-hand side. Andrew, you might be seeing the revival of Golem, as you mentioned here, in 2v2. More importantly, we're seeing Chivas Esports with a little bit of life here going into game number 3. Is there any way you run Golem again, though, in this game 3?
Why not? Right? I actually really liked what I saw there. Your opponents can't run again what they can't run back what they just did. It's not going to work out, so they got to switch things up. What are the most other popular win conditions? Well, double bait is one. Gravehound is, or Gravehound? Maybe that's what we should call it. I like that. Gravehound is the other. This deck, I think, matches up pretty well against those. And if it's just Lava Loon without the Graveyard in there, again, Golem going into that Lava push is not what your opponents want. I'd kind of love to see this run back.
Yeah, I'd be very curious. And on the Dignitas side, it feels like they had a pretty good moment. Was the NATO, the cheeky NATO, you know what they were going for on the Golem? Was that what put them in the hole too much to win this game?
Well, the interesting thing about that NATO was we all were kind of waiting for it. It was almost as if their opponents baited it out by dropping the Golem where they did. They're smart. They know what they're doing. They know that Golem can get pulled away with a NATO or logged away, but I think they put it there on purpose because you saw that Goblin Cage come down almost instantaneously after they gave their opponents enough time to recognize where the Golem was. That NATO coming in as late as it was kind of an indicator of how slow or how off rhythm they were over on Dig.
So getting ready for game number 3. Dignitas has had the better of head-to-head play overall and 2v2 play. They came out with game number 1 win. Game number 2 went to Chivas Esports. So we'll see. A very interesting look. You know, we talked a lot about this Golem, Andrew. We didn't talk much about the double Expo. It felt like locking things down for spell cycle was what they were going for and just not able to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was really impressive about the way that Diego and Pompeo dealt with the double Expo was just that they never ever got careless with their golems. They made sure that the correct guy was playing the golem at the correct time so that the other one would always have the best response. You know, the most expensive, the least effective response was the one that we saw early on in single elixir, which was the lightning plus the E-Wiz. That's just because it's so expensive, but it was still really nice for Diego and Pompeo to go, wow, okay, so if they are going to run double expo, which I don't think they expected, they have so many answers.
Well, what happens in that game if those two pieces aren't in their hands to start off in response to that expo? There was a nice connection. It looked like it could have been real bad news for Chivas Esports. Instead, able to recover, spend a lot, and still stay in the game.
Here we go. Pompeo and Diego B coming out with the Valkyrie. We saw their opponents run Valkyrie earlier and maybe taking a page out of their book from game number 2, I believe.
Splash heavy in both directions so far. 3 out of 4 for Código and Flash. 2 out of 5 thus far for Chivas Esports.
Game 1, excuse me.
And Musketeer behind the Mega Knight. You see the Inferno Tower come out, and that's going to be pretty nice if they can protect it. And a nasty freeze, and oh boy, this could be a lot coming down the opposite direction.
That's really interesting. I mean, the Inferno Tower played 1 tile higher would have already locked on the Mega Knight and probably dealt with it and been a harder, or I guess a less appealing duo to freeze. Kind of odd. You see Pompeo shaking his head there, and I think that might be part of it. That Inferno Tower played 1 tile higher makes that defense a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and you see that the result here isn't a ton of damage, but it is a slight elixir lead, especially in single with that slow flow. The 2.5-ish elixir lead for Dignitas could end up being very important.
Yeah, and we'll see right now if they decide to go on offense with Graveyard, if they're just going to hold on. Yeah, they're going to hold back. And yeah, exactly. And I think that's the correct thing. You see them set up again here because now their opponent's units on the board are going to come across, be easy cleanup. But they get that poison out, so going to go back to fairly even.
Mega Knight high is going to put a little bit of pressure on. No protection for the Mega Knight. We'll see if they do bring the freeze in here. Not quite in time for the Heal Spirit. So maybe a bit of an overcommitment on this push here from Dig.
Yeah, and that right there was exactly what Pompeo and Diego...
Oh, no.
Ooh, that hurts. That does hurt. And now you see a little bit of... You see life just rush into the eyes of Pompeo and Diego. They know they got to go heavy on the offensive now. A huge mental mistake made by their opponents.
Yeah, that's absolutely brutal. You can see all the goblins shaking their heads in the peanut gallery there. Freeze comes in. This might be a tower down early here. Baby Dragon is cleaning up for the moment. Oh boy, just what an unbelievable error to make in this situation for Dig.
Yeah, and then instead of kind of stopping the bleeding there, they use another tornado to feel, I think, what felt like stopping the bleeding, but it doesn't. Their opponents just go, all right, you want to use that NATO that late? Perfect. We're going to go right back on offense and take your tower. GG, well played. We'll see you in head-to-head.
Yeah, that was a lot here. Graveyard in, Law going to add a little bit more to it, and that's going to be it. Pompeo and Diego B get a game gift-wrapped by their opponents, and they are happy to take it with the advantage going into King of the Hill.
In their last 3 matches now, they are 6-2 in this 2v2 set. And just like we said, even though Chivas has been struggling, this is exactly what the squad needs to find success in the second part of the season. They need this duo of Pompeo and Diego B to keep bringing home these W's. Like I said, 6-2 in their last 3 matches, taking out Liquid, taking out Spacestation, and now taking out Dignitas' 2v2 duos.
Yeah, this is the kind of the spot where you want to get your 2v2 moving because you know you have the nastiest matchups coming up on the back end of this because I believe that they beat AC in his first game back, if that
yes, sir.
That memory serves me. So a good spot. If Chivas can come out of this weekend with 2 match victories, they are right in the mix.
Yeah, and you saw right there, trying to get a little cheeky with the King Tower activation on the Dark Prince. They completely missed the pull, and what I love the most about this moment is actually not on the replay, but it was the face of Pompeo and Diego B recognizing the mistake of their opponent and then going, cool, we just won this set.
Yeah, there were a couple ones that were maybe a little bit iffy, and that being the biggest one. And you understand why they NATO'd that back there, but I don't know, Andrew. This was a tough one, and for a team that has looked like they're in pretty good form so far, not the way you want to lose the 2v2 set.
Yeah, I mean, best case scenario in that moment, you're able to trade your opponent's tower. That's where that 3 elixir on the NATO becomes a bad decision because you're not going to defend. There's absolutely no way that your opponents don't take that tower. So the best thing that you can do, obviously, is to move it to a 2-tower game and reset. That NATO coming in was that moment that we all have. Your tower's down, you activate King Tower, and then your opponent throws up the thanks because now you've helped them get more damage on your King Tower. It's just one of those things that it hurts when you do it, but in the moment, you couldn't stop yourself.
So now here's the big question, though, Andrew, is can Chivas put it together in the head-to-head play? This has been the big difficult spot for them. They've been great. They're 3-1 in 2v2.
Yeah.
But they are so far collectively across King of the Hill and 1v1, they've won a total of 3 games in head-to-head play. So this is really the big telling point if Chivas is going to have a season or not right here against Dig.
Yeah, 3 games in head-to-head play, and that's including the 1v1 set, not just King of the Hill. They have had 2 King of the Hill sets where only one player has had to come out from the other squad. So these are all big problems. I don't really know what to do because honestly, Rich, I still believe Diego and Pompeo are their best head-to-head guys. So if you're Chivas Esports, it feels like your key to success is winning in 2 sets, which is something that you can't really control.
Yeah, it's rough. And to put that in context, Andrew, it's not just 3 total wins, it's 3-13 is the record in head-to-head play. I don't think you can break up that 2v2. You really can't. You have to keep winning the 2v2s. They're doing great. They got to figure out a way to get Adrian Piedra moving. They got to figure out a way to get Kevin moving. And hopefully maybe we'll see if Diego and Pompeo can clutch things up in the King of the Hill. And looks like today it's going to be those 2 saving Adrian maybe for the 1v1.
I like that. I like, again, Diego and Pompeo coming out and trying to pick up game wins in King of the Hill. They just need to do it. Pompeo's got 1, and Diego has gotten 1 in 3 King of the Hill sets. So this needs to change for Chivas.
Diego B's career win rate in King of the Hill just below 50-50, 14-16 lifetime with 1 King of the Hill sweep back in the fall season of 2019 when Team Liquid took their 2nd place and then moved on to go become world champions.
I have to say, I already love what I'm seeing out of Diego B. Looks like a fun deck to play. Double barrel with Royal Ghost. Sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, obviously Royal Ghost not a big part of bait overall. What I'm curious about is what its function is in this situation. Curious to see how this plays out as time goes on.
I'm assuming there's a way to get it in as a great bit of bridge spam, and then tank 4 or get tanked 4 by the barrels, if that makes sense.
I see what you mean. Here we go. Skeleton barrel in, and Flash comes down with the E-Wiz, and look at that.
Yep.
Royal Ghost will get 1 shot. No, just barely goes down. Still damage done. 1436 on the right-hand side.
And I also love that little bit of matchup there. That log, maybe not 100% necessary, but a good cycle to get more damage in. But what was great about it was that E was being dropped up high. Now, all of a sudden, a card that has a great response to a tank up front and goblins in the back provides splash damage to the Princess Tower.
First minute and a half finished, and so far it has been all Diego B with a very different look at double bait, and one that you assume doesn't have Princess, because you got to imagine there's a big spell in the mix here. Dark Goblin holding that position.
Yeah, the way that he's running this right now, we could see that rocket come out. But yeah, man, this is a fun deck. I really, really like what I'm seeing here.
Poison will burn off the Dark Goblin. But Inferno Dragon Bandit not going to do much in the opposite direction, and a full double bait push going the opposite way for Diego.
Yeah, and this is a frustrating matchup for Flash as well if you just talk about responses to barrels, and he's not got very cheap or very great responses.
And you saw Diego kind of tilt his head there a little bit, Andrew. I wonder if he recognized how bad that cycle was when he threw the Skeleton Barrel and the Goblin Barrel down. Mega Knight came out first, knew the E-Wiz would create a pretty significant counter push.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point you make. Maybe Diego getting a little bit too overzealous. He doesn't need to do that. He's got a lot of damage in. He can easily log this out, get those Skeleton Barrel in, keep making his opponent overspend, and then deal with the defenses. So right now, Diego B going to reset and probably slow things down just a little bit.
Fireball into Help High. Might throw a log behind just to keep that Ram Rider. No, doesn't need it.
That Royal Ghost did a lot.
Well, there's not much in the way of splash damage in this deck except for the Royal Ghost. That's the one that does it, and that's going to be it. Diego B coming out big with a win to open up King of the Hill.
And you look at Flash kind of being like, dude, what am I supposed to do? There's nothing to do there. He's got so much bait. He's got a lot of DPS. I've got very little spell response to all those barrels. Just a really, really nice matchup for Diego. But honestly, dude, I cannot wait to play that deck after the broadcast today. It looks like so much fun.
Yeah, that does look like a blast. And Diego looking right into the camera, stone cold stare, knows he just kind of changed things a little bit with a new look for that double bait. Improves his King of the Hill record on the season to 2 and 3. Flash now falling to 1 and 2 so far in this fall campaign.
I mean, what's so great about this double bait deck is obviously the amount of pressure, the ability to get both barrels on the board, but you talk about the tankage there. You got a great tank in the Prince, but another excellent tank with the Royal Ghost, and then that synergy of the Royal Ghost coming in, tanking for or being tanked for by the barrels. A lot of fun here.
The Prince was really, I mean, the Prince Royal Ghost combination, those two were critical. Andrew, you look at the Prince able to get be the heavy troop, absorb a lot of damage, put some single target damage in as well, and then the Royal Ghost with a little bit of cleanup on the back end. This was really, really interesting, really, really nasty, and it really felt like Flash was never in the game.
And the other cool thing about that Royal Ghost at the very end was you saw where that Bandit was maybe played by Flash in response or just to help the bridge battle out. It doesn't dash though, because the Royal Ghost all of a sudden goes invisible, takes a couple steps up, Royal Ghost comes back into visibility, dash doesn't happen, splash damage in, just a lot of great synergy in that deck. And then even if Diego ran into a person that did have spell responses, what do you spell? The gang? The Dark Goblin? Which barrel? How do you deal with it? So a lot of fun there. And then, of course, if your opponent does have a building, where do they play it to stay away from the Dark Goblin being played up high? Can't wait to see more of that.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I bet we'll be seeing a lot of that one over the course of this weekend. It'll probably show up here in CRL. Let's go ahead and jump to our Game 2 of King of the Hill. Lindsay, who has yet to find a win in this fall season.
If I'm Diego B, I wouldn't be surprised to run that again at some point, just because it feels like the opponents may not have a great response yet. Obviously here you see the bar barrel coming out first, so not going to be the case, but if it did go to a Game 3, I could see it happen.
Heal Spirit at the bridge for Lindsay, who, despite having a rough season so far, has had an overall fairly decent career, 52% win rate in head-to-head play, 59% in King of the Hill on top of 3 sweeps.
And Lindsay looking like he's playing for something to prove right now. Very frustrating season for him so far.
Yeah, you can see the body language, the facial expressions, nothing out of Lindsay. Looks like he's enjoying himself or feeling the mojo right now. We'll see if a win could change that.
You talk about how much he's actually been out in play and the success he's had, and it's very indicative of why that look is on his face.
First minute 15 done, and no one's taken a huge first hit yet. Lindsay a bit up on Elixir, so chooses to get that bar barrel cycled at the bridge, put a little damage on.
Lindsay 0-3 on the season in his gameplay. He went 0-2 in his first 2v2 set against Morton and Sam, then only showed up in head-to-head. Didn't actually have to play in that first King of the Hill because Código had the nice sweep, but then came out against Canario in their last match and was a quick 1-up, 1-down.
Diego B sets up Bomb Tower high here, and you see the Royal Giant go immediately opposite lane. He was going to defend with NATO Ice Wiz on the left-hand side. Heal Spirit, though, gets the Royal Giant back up. That's going to be a couple of shots.
Yeah, it really will be. And, Diego maybe being a bit careless there with his Bomb Tower. Goes down about 800 damage to his opponent.
Big chunk, and Ewiz Baby Dragon will play some defense.
A nice
And look at this.
there.
Heal Spirit should come behind this in just a moment. Nothing at the bridge, though, for the fight. And Bar Barrel out of cycles. Now you see a huge lightning, and the Heal Spirit. Will it get any target? No, the Royal Giant goes down just a half second too early.
Yeah, that was almost perfect by Lince to get a couple more shots in from the RG, which would have really put Diego in a rough spot. Right now, though, Diego having difficulties. He does get the tank across the board, but that Fisherman bringing it in so close with all that DPS on the back end, making it really difficult for him to have the tank on the board and get damage from his skeletons.
Yeah, I mean, the defense for Lince is troublesome here, with Lightning and Barb Barrel not being the greatest combo spell-wise for dealing with those graveyards. We'll see if now that maybe Diego's a little bit more focused, he can settle down and play the proper defenses here, but so far these Royal Giants have been getting through.
Yeah, Lince happy to take that spell value in the middle. Baby Dragon plus Bomb Tower with his Lightning, and that allows him to come in and get that one shot, even with all of the defensive answers being thrown at him by Diego.
And you see Lightning will be ready here fairly soon. Trying to spread out the defense right now is Diego B. Lightning takes that Bomb Tower off the board. This feels like the opportunity, if Diego's going to take the win off of Lince. A little bit low on Elixir right now, but you see, there he goes, pushing it for the graveyard.
Yeah, and this is what he needs to do. Like you said, this is going to be Diego's only moment to win, and I still don't think he's going to be able to come away with it, because Lince is going to have a moderate counter push coming down the lane with a lot of Elixir to respond. So you see now he's about to tick up to 6. Does he want to do the Heal Spirit? Does he want a Lightning? Does he want to drop an E-Wiz up high again? Just all the answers in hand for him.
Decides not to Lightning here. Might use it to break up the push at the bridge. 982 to 1388. Barb Barrel comes in a little bit early here, so there's going to be some okay damage on the right-hand side. And Royal Giant comes down again for Lince. The pressure is relentless.
Yeah, Lince not quite able to put that push together the exact way that he wants, but still going to get a lot out of it. And again, that Lightning has just been brutal for Diego to deal with.
And Naked Graveyard here, no support across the bridge. Baby Dragon does wander, but doesn't pick up the aggro. 728, although this is going to give the lead to Diego B as we go to the final 10 seconds.
Yeah, Lince, I think, is kind of falling apart in these final moments, getting a little bit too aggressive with the spells, not quite getting the value he was before. He may still take it here, but I feel like he made it a lot harder on himself than he needed to.
Oh,
he didn't get it!
So
oh, he did!
close.
He did! Oh my goodness, I read those numbers wrong. 33 HP difference, and I feel like Lince went in cruise control there for a moment.
Yeah, that cycled Lightning ends up not biting him back. Knew he couldn't use it really on defense, and 33 HP. The separation between these two. That poison comes down just a little bit earlier for Diego B. We're singing a different tune.
So very, very close W for Lince, but hey, he finally gets his first one of the season, and a very, very necessary first win here for the Dig representative. Now, hopefully, he can start to turn his season around and pick up the King of the Hill wins they need. That's why he's rostered at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's a King of the Hill specialist throughout his career, has been, and able to hold on here. You know, you get the triple elixir against Graveyard. Things can go wrong very, very quickly. Didn't happen here. Yeah, that Heal Spirit just a half step late. If that Heal Spirit gets there early, we're also not really getting to this very, very close finish.
Yeah, and so you can see here, Lince has the Elixir lead for a lot of the game, which is probably why he starts to feel a little more loose with throwing out those lightnings. Ends up working out okay, but it was a bit surprising to see him just pull the Naked Lightning out right there that early on. There's no way he's going to cycle all the way back around to it, so if you've got it in hand, why not really make sure you're safe with your defense first, and then drop that instantaneous Lightning down when you're closer to 2 or 1 seconds. Just got to keep that 6 elixir in mind, but still ends up paying off for him and winning by, 33 HP.
Yeah, winning by an absolute hair, and Diego was doing everything he could, and it felt like he might steal that one back there at the end. Instead, now we are all evened up 1-1, and they do have both the 2v2 players. Andrew, you talked about feeling like Pompeo and Diego were the top two guys in head-to-head play for Chivas Esports. One down. Coming up next is Kevin, and the big question here is, has he settled the nerves, and how does he perform against a team that is stronger than people have given credit for in King of the Hill?
I mean, it's all about getting that one, right? That first one big win, whether it's a game win or a set win. And Kevin right now really, really needs to have a moment that inspires confidence back in him and lets him know he does belong here with the big leagues, with the big dogs. So Lince and Kevin RA here coming out. Chivas, looking to get their first W still.
Magic Archer high for Kevin early, and the Barbaro will respond to that pretty simply. And the Ice Golem not getting the pickup either.
Yeah, interesting late Ice Golem there. A little bit of a waste of 2 Elixir already. He could have used that here instead, but the log has to come out. So already putting himself a little bit out of cycle, but the game is so early that he can recover.
Yeah, Lince does have more on the board, though, choosing not to support this early Night Witch going across the bridge.
And I like that, because what he really is doing is making sure his opponent has to keep cycling through his cards and keeping himself out of rhythm, keeping himself out of... Because, you know, you look at the cards that he has, and you already know what he wants to do. You know which units he wants to protect. You know which units he's happy to cycle.
Cage down, again, maybe a little bit early for Lince, feeling like Royal Hogs out of Kevin. And then again, the slow cycle behind King Towers, Kevin not wanting to overcommit and give up another big Elixir trade.
Yeah, luckily he was able to kind of reset. He finds himself pretty even once again. No significant tower damage on either side, as he said. And nice. This Ice Golem still not where he wants it.
Yeah, that's twice now that Kevin has maybe misplayed on his Ice Golems and not given the protection he was going for.
And a really bad log as well. I mean, that log lets that Baby Dragon come right on through, get on top of the Magic Archer. Maybe he didn't have any responses, but, you know, got to take a little bit of damage for it.
Mini P.E.K.K.A Heal Spirit to the right. Magic Archer again to get the cage out of the way. Ice Golem in front for this push on the right-hand side. And again, the log, not really sure what its goal was there out of Kevin.
Yeah, I'm wondering if a lot of these small, just micro mistakes, micro interaction mistakes do come strictly from nerves here.
Final 30 seconds of regulation. Fireball does come out as the 7th card for Kevin, and Lince goes Golem behind King Tower.
Golem behind King Tower, and now a quick response to the opposite lane. That Goblin Cage is probably all that Lince is going to commit to it in regards to going left-hand lane. A great E-Wiz to the right offset to here assist with his Golem push. Oh, and look at that. The Ice Golem actually resets his Goblin Brawler, so a big push coming down the right-hand lane here for Lince.
Lightning in, good fireball on the troops behind. But look at this, Golem on tower. Mini P.E.K.K.A will go back and draw the Baby Dragon in. This is going to be a huge, huge first hit on behalf of Lince.
Yeah, this is trouble because Lince is just going to go ahead and Golem right back up again. You see the Night Witch in the back to make sure he's not committing too much and not able to respond. Now the Goblin Cage is going to come in. He's going to deal with this massive push, and then he's going to throw a Golem down right in front of all of it if he's able to come out on top.
And just barely does, and ahead on Elixir, not just on the board, but in hand as well. Kevin R.A. certainly in some trouble.
And late Ice Golem again out of Kevin. Hunter gets pulled away. That's his best response on the board, other than the Mini P.E.K.K.A that has to come out late. And Kevin just getting worked here by Golem.
Yeah, I mean, absolute destruction. And, you know, it comes back to the question that we asked earlier in the show today, Andrew. I mean, obviously, Anaban decided to step away from competitive play for a little while, from CRL play. But the other piece of that is Richard, who had very good performances in the No Tilt League Special Edition, didn't get put in the mix much during CRL, and I have to wonder if, you know, completely resetting to a brand new rookie in this season was the right move.
Yeah, I mean, clearly as of right now, it's been the wrong move. I think the other thing that they needed to do early on from Chivas, if you go back and you look, and again, we have the luxury of being up in the booth and being able to look at things retrospectively, I think you never ever put Pompeo and Diego B together to start. I think you work towards that, but I think you start off with the rookie in the 2v2, even if that's not his MO, put him in that set to get a game win. Put him in that set to build some confidence. Put him in that set to do anything other than lose when pressure's on him solely. Because that's all Kevin has done so far. And as much as it is his fault, it's also the fault of his squad by not putting him in a position to get comfortable here in CRL.
Well, you know, maybe they were thinking that all the development he's had in their non-CRL programs was sufficient to work out those kinks, but this is the big leagues. This is a different level of gameplay that you're against, and Lindsay is a solid player in King of the Hill, but that doesn't excuse both the Ice Golem and Log mistakes that we saw over and over again.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things, this isn't a direct relationship, but I remember Bill Murray tweeting once, like, I wish that in the Olympics, they would put a normal person next to every single event so you could actually see how great these athletes are. Kevin's incredible. He's a very good player. He had a lot of promise coming into this. Lindsay's not even S tier when it comes to head-to-head play, and it felt like a massive drop-off in experience and talent just between those two. So now if you talk about someone like Kevin R.A. and Ruben, maybe that goes back to this Bill Murray tweet that I'm referencing. Kevin's good, but is he good enough to be S tier in CRL? Is he good enough to be the head-to-head hitter, heavy hitter in your 1v1 set? And as of right now, so far, he's just not the.
Here we go. It's going to be the last man standing in King of the Hill, Pompeo for Chivas Esports. Let's jump into it. And Andrew, to continue your analogy discussion, they talk a lot about jiu-jitsu in black belts, right? You punch a black belt in the face once, he becomes a brown belt. Punch him twice, he's a purple belt. Punch him 3 times, he's down to a white belt. And that's one of those things where you see maybe that Kevin might have the ability to make the correct decisions, but you saw the decision-making getting less and less together, even from the opening. So, you know, maybe he's been punched a little bit too much so far here, and it's getting harder and harder for him to stay focused and make good decisions when the pressure is on.
Yeah, and you know, the other tough spot to put them in, you know, it's easy for me to say in match 1, that's what they should have done. But at this point, like you said, how do you break up Diego and Pompeo in that 2v2 when it's the only place they've been finding success? And I don't really think you can anymore.
No, you really can't. So here we go. Graveyard aggressive from Pompeo. Bar Barrel and Ewiz in response for Lindsay.
Yeah, Lindsay here doing a great job for his squad. Has a pretty favorable matchup so far, so let's see how we go over the next few minutes.
Big breath for him. Pompeo on the defensive side, assuming that this is Graveyard from Lindsay, does have Poison, Bar Barrel, and of course the Archers as well. A nice little 3-piece here, and you know, you talk about that on the other side, Lindsay does have to spend a little bit more to get his defense going.
Yeah, so here in single elixir, he's going to have to play very, very conservatively and just make sure that he's okay not getting a lot of damage in, but more importantly, that he doesn't drop super low. So maybe in his mind, the best defense isn't offense.
And the Archers played maybe a little bit high here for Pompeo, right into the well-played Poison by Lindsay.
Nice
Counter push coming
there.
in with the healthy Inferno Dragon too.
Yeah, nice snowball there to get that extra damage in, but that 2 elixir spent was probably not where he wanted to place it. As you can see, this Mega Minion will stop that Inferno Dragon from coming in, but a lot of damage coming in and even more pressure.
And look at the cheap push on the right-hand side. An interesting push out of Pompeo going Knight and Skeletons, just forcing out more defense, and this keeps Pompeo way ahead on Elixir.
Yeah, maybe just trying to disrupt the flow of his opponent's defensive sequences. So you see the Bar Barrel no longer in, goes Ewiz in the back, Bar Barrel back up. Great poison value.
Yeah, I mean, forcing that Knight out meant he didn't have a good troop in cycle to set the line high, so you see a good amount of damage coming in, 860 on the left-hand side, and it's Pompeo keeping the pressure on. Goblin Cage behind here for Lindsay.
Yeah, Goblin Cage behind is an interesting play. We haven't really seen much of it because I don't think it's really that effective. As you can see, the whole graveyard comes and goes. Goblin Cage still sits there. It's not like a tombstone, you know, where it can at least provide a little bit of utility. It's just kind of there, hanging out, ready for the next push.
And maybe that's what it was the timing there to get the Goblin to pop for the next graveyard coming in. So it might have been Lindsay timing for push number 2, not for the push that was in front of him. And you see, gives up 0 damage to that naked graveyard.
But look at all that poison value that comes in. You couple that with the Bar Barrel, and all of a sudden you've given your opponent a massive positive trade here and no tanks really for your graveyard.
And Lindsay knows this one is over, throws the poison down to hope to add a little bit more, but poison will finish it. Pompeo gonna get one back for Chivas, and a big one indeed, sending this one to game number 5.
Yeah, sending this to game 5, and you know, this is the situation that Bale needs to be in if he's going to be the guy that's going to bring things home for them. He's got to be the home run hitter, the clutch, the clincher. But the thing is today he's being saved for that 1v1 set. It's going to be Código coming out. So I don't actually know how much I like this decision making when it feels like the guy who's your best 1v1 guy, you're saving for the third set.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough choice. I mean, you're talking about whether you're burning decks or not. You know, there's positives and negatives on both sides, but it does feel like with Flash and Código, maybe it was that they wanted to get Lince into the mix here and, you know, give both Flash and Código the opportunity for good matchups. But in the end, we're coming down to a question of whether or not Código can get it done and send them on, or whether it's going to be a quick 2-0 sweep for Chivas.
Yeah, Pompeo versus Código. I mean, maybe at the beginning of last season, it would have felt like this was so heavily in favor of Pompeo just because of kind of the promise of him. But, you know, I would say, because we've seen him so much more in 2v2 and go back and forth in King of the Hill, this does feel like a pretty even matchup. And let's not forget what Código did in his first game out against SK. I mean, yes, they still ended up losing, but he ended up taking Sergio, Javi, and Morten down in that King of the Hill, and then taking another game off of Javi in 1v1. So Código no slouch when it comes to being in this position.
Yeah, no slouch indeed. He's, you know, been big for Colombia overall and big for his team so far here. On the other side of it, again, we've said this a lot, Chivas has to feel good right now. We don't know what's going to happen in game number 5 here. We don't know what's going to happen in 1v1, but Chivas has to feel good. But in the end, if they do not win this match here today, I don't care if you feel good. There is no feeling good. Yeah. You're 0-4 on the season. So this is a big one for Pompeo. A win here clutches things out, closes out the matchup, means that he and Diego have put it together overall for a brilliant performance for their squad. A loss here, I believe, swings momentum away from Dignitas and continues maybe to pile on the negativity on the Chivas side.
Yeah, you know, this is a good day for Chivas, but I still feel like it comes with a bit of an asterisk just because it's only been Diego and Pompeo again picking up wins so far today. It needs to be a little bit more evenly distributed between the rest of their squad. You can't just expect Diego and Pompeo to do it every single match, because we know there's going to be days that have happened here already this season where they're just not going to show up in King of the Hill. So you need someone else to really, really bring it home.
So a battle of two of the more popular players out of Latin America. Of course, on one side, Pompeo, one of the early ladder gods, and of course, that 8-streak win on CWA's Pro v Pro series. On the other side, Código, who's been around going way back to CCGS Latin America, where he had some great performances, finishing 4th in the fall of 2017. And of course, one of the top 6 players all time in Grand Challenge wins.
Yeah, Código, one of those guys that when you actually look at what he's done in head-to-head play and you look at the moments he's had competitively at CRL or in other leagues, you're like, it does feel like people are sleeping on Código just a little bit. Just a little bit. It feels like he's under-celebrated.
Well, I mean, I think that, again, it comes back to him joining Cream too late in that 2019 spring season and never kind of getting in rhythm. Back in CRL Latin America, he had a 59% win rate in the 1v1 set, a 53% win rate in King of the Hill. He didn't touch 2v2 playing for Cream back in CRL Latin America, and then had to become a totally different player right out the jump when he came to CRL West. So, you know, it's one of those things where I think that 2019 year kind of undercut the value he really gives.
Yeah, that's actually a really great assessment of what you kind of how you draw up his career. Código here, missing the barb barrel, has to drop that E-Wiz down up high on top of the 6-man plus the cannon cart. Takes a little bit of damage in the left-hand lane, which would have been a lot more had he not sacrificed the E-Wiz. And, you know, the Royal Recruits, the 6-man showing its head for the first time today. Be very curious to see how they're going to show as the meta moves forward.
Baby Dragon to the right-hand side. We'll see what Pompeo chooses and just goes with the Hunter High. So there you go. The pig split at the bridge, picked up by the Goblin Cage.
Magic Archer doing a great job. Gets both the Goblin Brawler and that Hunter, and now cleaned off the board. And going to get a few shots in here for Pompeo.
That's a very healthy Magic Archer. 1783 left on the left-hand side as we go into double elixir time. Pompeo and Diego so far doing all the work for Chivas.
And the really nice thing that Pompeo, the position he's kind of put himself in already, is that because of where his opponent's at in his cycle and kind of what's happened early on, Pompeo's going to be able to cycle those 6-man in the back every time he doesn't know what he wants to do. And that's a really, really great way to use a lot of elixir that provides a ton of utility moving forward. Graveyard
push on the right-hand side for Código with a healthy Knight in front of the Hunter. So Little protection there for the Hunter. Fishboy goes down, and this could be a lot of damage on the right-hand side.
Yeah, I mean, that's a misplayed unit there by Pompeo. He plays his Hunter way too close and allows splash damage to come in on his highest DPS unit. Not what he wanted and punished for it.
Well, that's the idea often with the Fisherman Hunter, but the X factor there was the Baby Dragon, not accounted for properly by the Chivas player. And now a swing towards Código as we go into sudden death overtime.
Yeah, and a big swing, because that luxury I was talking about on the previous cycle of interactions here was that he was able to put down that 6-man in the back, which really helps deal with those graveyard pushes when they do come down. But a little bit of mistake here and a little misplay there, and Código in the driver's seat.
And that was a very good bar barrel by Código. Keeps the cannon cart down in the back and took care of the Hill Spear, but that's a ton of Magic Archer value.
Dude, that Magic Archer just went to town. The cannon cart tanking on the front end. That Baby Dragon lined up perfectly for Pompeo.
Big hits in both directions. Graveyard getting a lot of damage on the right-hand side. We are very, very close right now, everyone. 961 to 895. And again, no, this time the Magic Archer off by a half tile.
Yeah, that would have been a massive moment for Pompeo. Probably would have just stolen. You can see him shaking his head right there, knowing that that was the way for him to really put the nail in the coffin. He's going to have to work really, really hard to stay in this.
Graveyard in to the left-hand side as that Knight continues to tank, and tanks for a bit longer maybe than Pompeo would have expected. Skeletons getting in, doing a little bit of damage here, so now Código does have dual lane options against the dual lane threat of the Pigs Royal Recruits.
Yeah, so Pompeo cycles the 6-man in the back, and you can see him cycling relentlessly in the back without cycling the Hunter or the Magic Archer. It's really important to pay attention to that because they need to come down in more opportune positions.
And now a second set of 6 up at the bridge. Magic Archer will go down to the poison. Final 30 seconds. A ton of recruits on the right-hand side. Goblin Cage now going to be, I believe, tough to get back into cycle here. As the cannon cart connect? No, it doesn't.
Ooh, that was very, very close. And you see here, Pompeo, though, still did a ton of damage on the right-hand side. It was just the Baby Dragon that came up for Código in response defensively.
Código might take the lead here,
Yes,
and
sir.
he does. Pompeo has to sell out. Where can he go? Pompeo goes to the right-hand side. He knows that that was just a massive, massive swing. Código clutches things up for Dig and sends it to the 1v1.
Oh, and you see the frustration on Pompeo's face. Just a little bit careless with the placement of his units. That comes in at the very end. Bottom right-hand side barely falls behind. And again, Código doing it for Dignitas, extending their life one more time to this third set. He did it in game 1. He's doing it again here in game 4, match 1, match 4. But in match 1, Código came out again in that 1v1. I think we see Bale after great success against Igor and Pedro.
Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine that Bale's coming out for the 1v1 set. Although Lindsay did have a good performance today, it seems like that's the way to go. Man, let's take a look at the action again here, and I think this is... I'm trying to look at when this is in the match with a minute 45 left here, and this is the first Magic Archer, and think about that, Andrew. It's the second Magic Archer that was a half tile off that could have changed everything.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Look at how many shots that he gets in. So perfectly placed. The Baby Dragon can't focus on it. The Knight's got to walk around the park before it can even get up in the face of the Magic Archer, and he goes back on offense here. Still a good offensive push, but then things started to fall apart because right here, Código takes a ton of damage on the right-hand side, min-maxing, if you will, with that Baby Dragon, and it gives him enough elixir to go back on offense here. And you see the dual lane pressure also was very substantial. This Knight on the left-hand side brings that tower down a good amount, or excuse me, is going to bring that tower down a good amount unless that Fisherman came in.
And you see the Magic Archer played high there. Bar Barrel for 2 elixir goes and says, bye-bye Magic Archer. That's essentially 4 elixir. That's a 6 elixir swing directly towards Código in those final moments. That Magic Archer played high there, kind of in no man's land. That's the one there that I don't know if it would have made all the difference, but it's 4 elixir spent and 2 elixir now in that's completely healthy on the other side. I'd like to go back and look at that one more time, maybe after the broadcast is over and see it, but it felt like that was the end there that gave the match away, or gave the game away to Código.
So we talked a lot about favor swinging in either side's, favor, if you will. It feels like it goes back towards Dig now, though, right? With Pompeo and Diego both out, and again, what I was talking about with Chivas not picking up any game wins with anyone other than their 2v2 players. Does this go back in favor of Dignitas now? Most likely going to be Bale against... I don't know, man. I don't know who the better decision is.
It has to be Adrian Piedra. It has to be,
right?
You can't send Kevin out right now. After the game he just played, sending him out would be a thing where if I'm Chivas and Kevin comes out, I'm changing coaches at that point, right? You can't send a guy you just played like that back out right now. It has to be Adrian. He has the experience. He's generally good under pressure, and he can win this best of 3 against Bale. He certainly can. That's my expectation as we see those two players.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head, and this isn't the give the rookie a hard time part of the show. This is just being honest. He made a lot of mistakes out there, very, very small mistakes over and over. What's crazy about the mistakes he made is that they were 2 elixir mistakes that kept repeating, whether it was with the Ice Golem or with the Log. And when you're talking about units that are that cheap, that have that much of an effect on the game because the mistake happens over and over, I agree wholeheartedly with you. I don't think Kevin goes back out today. I don't know where Kevin's going to find his footing at all, or if he will this season. You have to go Adrian against Bale.
Well, you say, Andrew, 2 elixir mistakes, but in these contexts, they don't end up being 2 elixir mistakes. They end up being 4 or 6 elixir mistakes because the troop you're protecting doesn't get protected. You have to spend extra to try to deal with the mistake that you just made. So, you call them 2 elixir mistakes, but it feels like they're even bigger. And looks like we were right, Andrew. It will be Bale coming out for Dignitas, currently 2-0 in the 1v1 set, up against Adrian Piedra, who's only come out once in the third and final, lost 1-2.
Now, the camera, though, we're seeing on screen, there we go. I was like, that's Diego B, but here we go. Adrian Piedra is the man actually at the helm here, going up against Bale. Bale probably got a lot more confidence over the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. He's doing great in this set. Currently 4-2 in games, 2-0, not to mention his 3-1 in King of the Hill. This is the performance that Dig expected when they picked him up.
So another interesting bait deck here coming out from Bale this time. Now, as you see, Hog Rider, Skarmy, Gob Barrel, Princess. Okay, okay.
Hog Barrel. Every time I face Hog Barrel, whether it be on ladder or whether it be in a challenge, I'm always going like, have you not changed your deck since you were 2,000 trophies? What's going on here? I mean, look at this deck. Skarmy Hog Barrel. My mind's kind of blown to see this in CRL.
Well, it's a really frustrating deck to play against because you don't know where you want to get your spell value on every single interaction, right? Usually when you're going up against Logbait and you have 2 spells, you're like, okay, I'll save my cheaper spell for that, and I'll save my bigger spell for the Princess. But now all of a sudden you go, how do I actually stop the Skarmy? Where do I get the value against the Princess? How do I stop the Hog Rider? And of course, that pesky Goblin Barrel plus Hog Rider push is a real thing that's real annoying.
Yeah, we'll see how long it takes Adrian to get a King Tower activation. Not sure if he's going to want to go for it on the left-hand side now with all that damage. 1562 remains. The interesting wrinkle here, Andrew, and you'll see the Hunter will come high. Snowball making a bit of extra room, so Ewiz has to come out. What a huge chunk of damage on the left-hand lane. Is this maybe where Adrian pulls the trigger on the Graveyard?
I mean, Adrian just doesn't seem to have an answer right now. He's just completely overwhelmed, and the tough thing with the King Tower activation is his opponent's not really letting him get there when he has enough elixir in hand, because he's got to deal with so many things at different parts, whether it's the Goblin Barrel in the back end, the Hog on the front, that getting that Fisherman down in the right spot to activate King Tower becomes near impossible.
So not using Barb Barrel here, maybe thinking about trying to use it at the bridge in support of all of these troops, and there you go. The Skarmy does come down. No Barb Barrel, but here's a lot of damage from the Graveyard on the left-hand side.
Yeah, only being defended there with just some Goblins and the Goblin Gang on the back end. Bale maybe being a little bit loose there, but thinking that this last 391 should be easy to take. That being said, his direct spell tower damage is very, very low, so he needs to outcycle Adrian now to get that barrel back down.
Bale's going to ignore these princesses on the left-hand side for a little while. Ewiz play low, so Inferno Tower super happy to do the work up high. Bar Barrel comes out, and right now it looks like Adrian could be setting up for a pretty big counter push.
I mean, Adrian still isn't out of this, which is crazy to think because he's only got 400 HP remaining, but this is the thing when you play decks like this, they are so hard to get that tower damage in later on.
Hog Rider taken care of by the Hunter on the right-hand side. Bar Barrel will clean this up. Takes a little bit more damage, though, 292 on the left-hand lane.
Yep, and that's what Bale needs to continue to do. He needs to continue to play these Bar Barrels just slightly tricky so that even just one Goblin connects.
Graveyard in, no tank. Is there enough for a poison behind? And there is. Is the cage available? Cage does push. Can he get to the Bar Barrel in time? Not gonna happen. Bale takes game number 1.
And Adrian Piedra almost getting there. He drops the poison down. Not a good decision because he already had the Fisherman on top of the tower to help with the skeletons. So a really, really nice play there. And this is just game 1. So we do have another game coming in for Bale and Adrian Piedra. Really, really tough position for Adrian to be in.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it. When the poison came down, you're looking, hey, I know that we're getting late in this game, but it wasn't quite triple elixir yet. This game ended just as it moved into triple elixir, so you're still in double, playing 9 on offense when you know that a Hog Barrel push can wreck you on the left-hand side. If he doesn't play that poison, I think he extends the game a little bit longer.
Well, yeah, and that Hog Barrel push demands that you play 2 different responses. You have to play something on the front end, whether it's the Mega Knight or that cage, and then you have to have the Bar Barrel for the back. So yeah, not a great moment of decision making for Adrian Piedra, and you get it. You feel the pressure when your tower's that low for that long. Right here, Bale did a really good job of never ever giving too much value with Skarmy plus Goblin or a Goblin gang. He always made sure to stagger him and made sure that if his opponent was going to drop that poison down, yes, he'd get some damage. Yes, he'd clean one of those off the board, but never ever gave a Goblin gang and a Skarmy or a Princess to one spell.
So that was a big win there, Andrew, for Bale, because that moves his career record after a dismal spring season. Now with the success here in the fall, currently 8-5 overall, he's 50-50 in his CRL career. That's a big comeback from just how devastating his spring performance was.
Yeah, and again, taking out Pedro, taking out Igor, and starting off really strong against Adrian Piedra, this is a very exciting thing for Dignitas. This is exactly what they need, and this is, again, why I actually believe they will be in our playoffs. They feel like a top 6 squad when they're playing like this.
And Chivas Esports now with 2 match points for their opponents. This feels like it might be a make or break moment. They do have the double header this weekend, but if they go down 0-4, to have a winning record, you have to win out on that stage. Going to be very difficult to do for a team that has not figured out their head-to-head play.
Yeah, Chivas, just a lot of trouble. Now, they have already played Tribe and Spacestation Gaming, but that still means they have to run into squads like SK. So definitely not going to be an easy second half, or I guess easy way out on their season. This is a must-win. Must win for them.
Heal Spirit's tackle to the left-hand side. Fisherman will go to the right into the Musketeer, who does have an ever so slightly reduced first shot. You see, takes a little bit longer there to get that first one off.
Yeah, a lot of people still saying that she's OP or still incredibly strong, which I think is good. I don't think anyone really wanted to see Musketeer fall out of the meta. It was just that she was a little tougher than she needed to be.
Lumberjack behind the recruits does force the Miner out on defense. Bale might go Balloon here behind this Lumberjack, although we don't know, probably a building for Adrian in this one.
I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous about the deck that Adrian is running, just because of how quickly it cycles and how if just one defense goes wrong, you spend 5 elixir on 3 separate cards, it could be the game right now.
Heal Spirit does not save the Musketeer. So it's looking like 6 Loon for Bale and Minor Musk Loon for Adrian. No one's pulled a Balloon trigger as of yet, although this might be the opportunity. Bale just going to keep up with the ground pressure, and it's working for him so far.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I'm talking about, Rich. Is like, you look at how much Adrian had to spend there, and he ends up taking a lot of damage and is down in elixir. When you're playing this high cycle a deck, this high interaction, this is a very high skill cap when you talk about defense really, really, truly difficult to defend, especially against the 6-man.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing the double small spell for Adrian. Here comes the balloon high. Do we finally see a building? And that's why you didn't see the bomb tower out earlier against the Royal Recruits, because he knows that balloon's coming at some point, and bomb tower Musketeer or bomb tower Snowball going to be able to shut that down. But if your bomb tower's out of cycle, good luck.
Yeah, and you knew the balloon was going to come in here for Adrian. I think this is going to be a pretty easy defense for Bale, and then I think Bale should go back on offense and maybe put him in some real trouble.
Well, he has a Lumberjack, a Musketeer, an Inferno Dragon, 2 Fish Boys, a Balloon, a Partridge, and a Pear Tree on the board, Andrew. So this is looking real bad for Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, and the writing was on the wall there. He spent way too much, didn't get enough out of it. Bale, even if Bale takes that bomb drop, he's fine with it. And this is going to be a devastating showing here for Adrian. And what a run for Bale. Going 6-2 in his last 3 1v1 appearances. This young man is ready to go.
Dignitas. Huge win on the day. Reverse sweep for the squad. 3-1 on the season. Andrew, who saw this coming?
Man, I mean, I guess every other caster other than you, if I'm speaking frankly. But dude, it was such a good back and forth. I really think Chivas needed to take it in that second set. I don't think there's no hope left for them this season, man. And I know it sucks to say that because we have so much love for this roster that they've put up, but at this point, there's no saving this team.
Is there any way they sneak into the number 6 spot with a losing record here, Andrew?
I mean, they're 0-4 against Tribe, Liquid, Spacestation, and Dig, and the only squads there that they actually are worried about in the sense of that are 100% going to be in front of them are Tribe and SSG. Team Liquid and Dignitas are the types of teams that they can see themselves being on the bubble with, and not having that head-to-head matchup, not having that head-to-head kind of differential is going to be their biggest sinker.
And they still have to play against Queso, SK, and Cream Real Betis. So
yeah,
looking dire for Chivas Esports at this stage. We still have 3 teams who have yet to pick up a win at this point in the season. Andrew, we came in feeling like this was going to be the most evenly matched season we've ever seen. And while we've seen some teams overperform, and Dig being one of those ones, we have 3 teams at this stage in Misfits, Pain, and Chivas that just look like they are not getting it figured out.
I mean, if we're being 100% honest, it happens in every sport. There's always going to be the bottom of the barrel squads that for some reason they just can't put it together, whether it's roster, whether it's luck, whatever it is. When you talk about the most competitive parts, I think it's kind of more of a testament of the top of the ranking. That top 4, as we move through the rest of the season, it's going to be so close. And when we actually get into the playoffs and world finals, I think you can go in any direction. I think that top 1% is so much closer when you talk about competition. But the problem is, if the 1% is that close, there's a big drop off between them and the rest of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, there's been nothing more telling than that so far this season. And Andrew, it's been a really rough one. We have more rookies in than we've had in a long time, but we of course are going to see some more tomorrow with a lot of the rookie teams coming out. Mm-hmm. But the teams, you have Misfits, can't get a win so far with 2 rookies. Pain, all 4 rookies, no wins. And then here, Chivas Esports with another rookie in their part, and Kevin R.A. So far, it's been a pretty rough run for the newcomers.
Yeah, and it's still hard for the guys that have been around for a long time, right? The competition's getting better and better and better. So just like what we just said in regards to an entire team, I think it correlates directly over to head-to-head play or individual play as well. You're a rookie. You don't have the experience. You haven't been on the stage before. You've got more nerves than your opponent. All these things add up to create this big difference that we're seeing.
Andrew, we've talked a lot about all these different pieces here, and not a rookie anymore, but Dignitas, they're performing well, but a lot of that is all because of Bale. 3-0 in the 1v1 set. Great investment for this squad.
Yeah, so here we go. SK and SSG right after our break time battle. Don't move a muscle. This is going to be a good one.
It's been a day of closely fought battles here in CRL West, going down to the 1v1 set 2 times in a row. And now we go to our third match of the day, Andrew. The winner will take possession of first place. But last time we were here last weekend, while we thought it would be Tribe and SK going all the way down to the end, it was the exact opposite, a clean 5-0 sweep, courtesy of the mad scientist himself, OP Sam.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a moment for Spacestation Gaming, not just to show everyone that they are still the SSG that everyone knows and kind of fears, but also to show that SK Gaming can be beaten. It needs to happen for everyone else to look at them and go, wow, maybe they aren't inhuman, because as of this moment, they've done it in 2 sets twice, and one of them was taking down Tribe 2-0, which is the team that SSG struggled against. SSG lost to them in 3, but Tribe really struggled against SK Gaming. So I'm really curious to see how they end up matching up today, since, Tribe gave SSG such a run for their money, and the exact opposite to SK Gaming.
I mean, SK is just clicking on all cylinders right now, and when they're good, they are so darn good. OP Sam, huge last weekend, obviously, with a massive King of the Hill sweep. And we have a pretty big showdown here. The top 3 head-to-head players, or top 3 overall win rates on the season between Ruben, Sam, and RF. Sam and RF both at 12 wins, just behind the 14 for Ruben. We might crown a new king at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, if you talk about Sam, he's done so much in the King of the Hill set, which is a spot that if you're SK Gaming, you don't actually need Sam there. You have someone in Sergio Ramos that can fill his role in that second set. But if he is playing at that level in both of those opening sets, that's another thing that makes SK so dangerous, because their King of the Hill all of a sudden becomes 3 S-tier players. When Sam's playing this way, I truly believe he's S-tier. And you are a fool if you say Morten and Javi Catorce are not. And then you got to go face Javi again in the 3rd set. So this becomes a very, very difficult climb that gets exponentially harder as you work through the match with SK Gaming. And that being said, their 2v2 is still stellar.
So here's the big question, Andrew, is have AC and RF ironed out their kinks? Are they in top form? Will we see 2 of the best 2v2 duos of all time put on a show for us? We'll find out. Coming up next, Space Station Gaming and SK. Let's go.
Ooh, let's go.
Space Station and SK playing to take control of number 1. It's a leadership battle, and I don't care who you are, there is no way to pick the winner in this one.
Now is that Sam and Morten seem to be playing better together than AC and RF.
Muy osados, muy atrevidos de tratar de jugarle así, con el mismo mazo. El partido de la semana, SK en contra de SSG, se van a matar acá, uno con 4-0, 3-1, el campeón anterior, no sé qué decirles, esto va a ser una lucha de titanes, no lo podemos perder.
Desse final de semana, Space Station e SK, valendo aí, quem sabe, a primeira colocação, sim, porque a SK tá em primeiro lugar, tá invicta, jogando demais, ganhou da Tribe na semana passada. Imprevisível, essa não dá pra arriscar. Eu diria aí que um leve favoritismo para a SSG, pra Space Station, por conta do Brasil, né? Aqui é Brasil, rapaziada.
Qué defensa se
Qué
tiró, pero
daño,
igual,
ya está, partida.
Partida, chicos, GG.
Es un ciclado más,
Vuelve.
listo.
Les digo que a pesar de todo, qué bien las juegos son.
Huge implications in this one between these 2 squads, not just control of first place, but the top 2 squads, remember, do go on with a direct berth to World Finals.
Yeah, that first round bye is massive, or that berth to finals is just huge. And RF, another guy that has been massive this season, 2 King of the Hill sweeps already, dominance in that 2v2, originally with Lapacati, now with Aw Crap, and of course Samuel Basoto has been their 1v1 guy, but he's also been trading off with Lapacati, which is a really nice luxury that Space Station Gaming has to keep their opponents guessing.
On the other side, no questions here. SK Gaming's Morten and Sam, one of the top 2v2 duos historically, put together so many great performances, currently leading the league at 8-1 and 89% win rate on the season. And of course, Javi Catorce, one of the all-time greats, and Sergio Ramos, one of the most famous players in the game, to round out this SK Gaming roster.
Yeah, and if you talk about Fantasy Royales, I see it scrolling down by the bottom of the screen there. 2 guys here, Morten and the God RF, have been 2 of the most chosen people in all of Fantasy Royale when they aren't pulling double headers. So very cool to see both of them out again, and actually both of them in my lineup. So here we go. Ah, crap! The God RF banning Fisherman, and OP Sam and Morten banning Tornado. No surprise there, but, like we said earlier today, it was kind of surprising to see Tornado in play.
Yeah, that was interesting, and of course, Going to be a little different here in this one. You can see AC and RF right next to each other. Morton and Sam were able to fist bump each other last week after that 11 HP win over Tribe Gaming's Azeles and Buffback. And Andrew, when we talk about the best 2v2 players in the business, most wins career-wise in 2v2, the God RF at 63 leads that. But you talk about putting together a lifetime win rate that's high level, 62% career for Morton and Sam together.
Yeah, and I mean, if you are anyone that is ever excited about 2v2 competitive player, you want to be one of the best 2v2 duos out there, these are 4 of the gentlemen you want to watch very, very closely.
Second most wins career-wise in 2v2 is RF's partner, Crap, who joined the team late due to a rules violation. Looking to try to play catch-up the best he can, but it looks like forever his teammate RF will be ahead of him in those career wins.
Yeah, I can't imagine where RF would play those, or where AC would play those 2v2 catch-up games without RF. Really nice defense, though, coming out from the Germans here at the top of your screen, and very interesting double Expo deck composition again, most likely.
Yeah, this is going to be fascinating. And it's curious to see Valkyrie as a part of that mix. You see Valkyrie in the hand of Morton and Sam running the Knight, 2 very different purposes, both cycle fairly quickly, though.
So a huge elixir lead in the hands of Sam and Morton, and you'll wonder if they're going to go back on the offense with that. You know, Graveyard historically does not match up well against Expo in 1v1. We'll see how this translates over to 2v2.
As we get close to double elixir time, you see the next Expo come down on the left-hand side. Giant Skeleton right into it. Log trying to make enough room, and the second Log should make enough room to keep that Death Bomb off the Expo.
Yeah, really, really nice second Log there, and a big, big-time connection for that Expo on the left-hand side. And the one thing about Expo connections is even if they don't get a lot of damage out of you, you know that you've spent too much elixir, and taking that damage is so demoralizing.
Log to keep, again, all of that back the best they can. And a second Expo. Very aggressive play right now from the Germans.
Well, they know their opponents are so low on elixir. Look at that, 5 elixir in the hand. The Log takes the Heal Spirit out of play. And they are just burning through SSG right now.
And there you go. Expo does not get the connection. Well-timed E-Wiz played by Crap, but it's just looking more and more dire right now for Spacestation.
I mean, the important thing to recognize with that fireball was they knew their opponents were good enough to get another unit down. The thing is there was very, very little chance they were going to get the unit that they wanted down in that spot. You definitely don't want your E-Wiz tanking for the Expo without an ability to turn that into a counter push. Straight work, bro.
Wow. Wow. Absolute wow. Complete domination. And no words even to be said here. AC and RF know that they were never in that one.
Yeah, exactly. What do you even say to each other after that game other than just like, let's try to forget that that just happened, and let's hope that we have a better matchup in game number 2. Because, you know, you being an Expo player and me as someone that hates losing to Expo, we all know what happens when you overspend and your opponent still connects with maybe 1/5 HP left on that Expo. Not only are they going to get a few hundred damage in, but you've just wasted a ton of elixir.
I was about to say, Andrew, don't paint me with that toxic brush anymore. I haven't been an Expo player for a very, very long time. Chat, don't hate me. Don't hate me. And this is exactly why you hate it, man. And this is the interesting thing about Expo in 2v2, Andrew, and we've now seen, it should have worked the last time, we saw it work in this case, is it creates such an interesting wrinkle to prepare for, because now this deck is in the back of AC and RF's mind for the rest of this set. Right? They're like, what if we have to be prepared for it? We know that they can play it and play it well. We can't give them another matchup that is great for Expo. And so now it really gives a huge swing in the mind game conversation towards SK.
Yeah, mind game is a really, really great way to put it, because SK has notoriously been a squad that is very, very difficult, even when you do game what they might run, to still get the W. So the fact that you have to guess and keep guessing against Sam and Morton, and they're as talented as they are, and you're down a game, it's a tough position to be in. That being said, Immortals, now Spacestation Gaming, have notoriously dropped one game in their 2v2 set and then reverse swept. It's something that AC and RF have done for a very long time in their career, maybe feeling out their opponents in game one.
Well, that's a big part of why their career wins are so high, but their career win rates in 2v2 aren't astronomical. Around 55% for both of them, 55 to 56%. And it's because they win so many of these sets 2-1. So exactly what you're talking about, Andrew. These guys are very good, but I don't know how you prepare to play against Expo and just in case not play against Expo. It's going to be really hard for these guys.
If I was the analyst or coach for Spacestation Gaming right now, I would be in a really, really tough spot. Here we go into game number 2, but you and I have actually been pretty good this season, I'd say, not to pat our own backs too much, but about picking what we think people may run when they're down a game or in kind of a, not desperate situation, but a down situation. This is a situation where I have no idea what Sam and Morton run because they're almost never behind. They're never playing from behind.
Yeah, they've been in the driver's seat pretty consistently, have only given up one game loss so far in 2v2, 9-1 on the season, and now very aggressive with this graveyard push.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to that, when you're never playing from behind, your opponents never have to expect you to make desperation plays.
Giant Skeleton not quite getting there. Good control by AC and RF, but behind by a lot on Elixir once more.
Yeah, it's crazy how quickly that happens. Just 1 minute of gameplay.
Giant Skeleton Musketeer to the left. Royal Recruits high, and they'll do a good job of cleaning up here and walking away from that death bomb.
Yeah, really nice little trade there for AC and RF.
As we approach the midway point of regulation time, you might be surprised to notice this, everybody, but despite the pressure being on by SK Gaming, it is Space Station currently in the lead on damage.
Yeah, that moment with the Royal Recruits was a good way to give them Elixir back and, of course, create a little bit of pressure on both sides.
Skeletons don't split. All three go to one side. Interesting thing there.
And that bar barrel, a little aggressive by AC and RF since that Ewis took that half step over the bridge and came in Princess Tower range.
Despite the early pressure, Andrew, this has turned into a pretty slow, methodical battle as time has gone on.
Yeah, really, really quiet here. And just
Skeleton Dragons have...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Andrew. Oh, huge fireball.
Yeah, really, really nice fireball. I'm assuming you're going to say Skeleton Dragons not showing up as much ever since the change.
Yeah, you talk about the overall balance changes, and the Heal Spirit and the Musketeer haven't dropped low in use that much, but the Skeleton Dragons, we have seen a pretty significant change, and most people so far think that they are in a pretty good spot balance-wise.
So the freeze graveyard comes in. Sam and Morton do not hit the panic button. They just spread out their range DPS, and this feels like a moment for them that they want to go on offense, but as you can see, things are kind of out of sequence. You got the Ewiz in front of the Musketeer, in front of the Baby Dragon, so instead they need to reset.
3-3 split high for AC, keeping that first Giant Skeleton trapped on the other side of the bridge. Minute 45 left in sudden death.
Dark Prince played in the right spot so that it crosses the bridge just in time to take those skeletons without getting any splash damage.
And there goes a big Lumberloon push on the left-hand side. Bomb Pat Tower played in the pull spot for that balloon, and a defensive freeze to hold off on the pressure.
Defensive freeze is always a kind of an uncomfortable position to be in. If they can get it back around and have it defensively again, they could be fine, but this is also, it sometimes is a panic button mode defensively.
So both freezes were played on that sequence, and here you go, see SK Gaming set up Giant Skeleton in the back, as opposed to the 3-3 Dark Prince setup with the Giant Skeleton high for SSG.
Graveyard coming in, and just not a lot of splash damage in the hands of Morton and Sam, so the Royal Recruits are kind of a nuisance, but they're still doing a great job of keeping them at bay.
this is really, really nice for Spacestation because look at how much traffic they just created on the left-hand side. Got a lot of value from that giant skeleton, and now they're able to pressure again at the bridge.
Yeah, and what another great thing that Spacestation here is doing is leaking very little elixir and continuing to cycle things in the back when they don't have great answers, so that they're never wasting their advantage.
And here comes the offensive freeze with 20 seconds left. Can they get enough room? Snowball trying to put some more damage on tower. Can't get it done. 1672. And now a graveyard poison push in for Spacestation, but SK with a lot of pressure in the opposite direction.
Yeah, Spacestation kind of selling out, but SK has a massive push coming in. Will the balloon drop in time? Doesn't even matter. They're both there. ACRF kind of going back and forth. They go 0-2 against Pompeo and Diego B. They go 2-1 against Air Surfer and Wings, and now another 0-2 against a squad who you don't want to give an inch, let alone a mile to.
Yeah, that's going to be a rough one here for Spacestation Gaming. And look, they certainly have the capability of putting together a good performance in the head-to-head play in the King of the Hill, obviously, but now you have to run through this roster in 2 back-to-back sets. Going to be a tough uphill fight.
There are a lot of games yet to be played here, but I just want to because I'm an impatient person, I want to skip ahead and just say, what happens if SK wins 2-0 again? What if SK just 2-0's Tribe, 2-0's SSG? Is there anyone in the West who actually gives them or poses them a real threat if that's what happens after their last 2 matches?
If they 2-0 both these teams, just go ahead and buy them a plane ticket right now. Get them ready for Shanghai because they are certainly putting together a massive performance this season.
And just to remind you guys, if you're going, well, what about Team Queso? What about Ruben? Well, they lost. Team Queso lost to SK in that 1v1 set. Ruben lost to Javi Catorce. So right here, you're seeing the very final seconds of the last push coming in. They Spacestation put in a high poison there. It really was kind of getting in what they could, where they could, but SK was just doing such a great job with not overspending on defense so that they could really pile it on. So that last replay was a great display of exactly what we're talking about. Taking damage in on the defensive side and then just putting 30 elixir down on offense.
So now we head into King of the Hill, Andrew, and we know what we're going to be seeing from Spacestation Game. It's going to be AC, RF, and Samuel in some order. They've been messing with that order a little bit. Do you think Sam comes back out again in the King of the Hill this time after last week's performance, or do you give Sergio a run?
I think you bring out Sam. Spacestation Gaming is a squad that you really don't want to give them any sort of cushion against, even if you 2-0 them in 2v2. They have guys like RF, Lapo, and of course their 1v1 guy in Samuel that can take a King of the Hill or 1v1 set at any time. I think you just try to get this done in 2 and don't give any bit of confidence or any bit of hope to your opponents in Space Station.
It's going to be a curious one. 2 of the most stacked rosters in King of the Hill overall in CRL West going head-to-head. OP Sam coming off of a huge King of the Hill sweep. And you got to wonder where Space Station's mentality is after these 2v2 struggles.
Yeah, it really becomes tough because Lapicati and RF were doing so well, and you saw a moment there where Crap and RF were back and fighting for him, but then you can think about, who they beat. They beat Air Surfer and Wings, who have really struggled this season. Misfits has struggled in general, so it was great to see Space Station kind of back and fighting for him in that 2v2. But then when you talk about beating people, Diego B and Pompeo have been pretty strong in 2v2. They got 0-2'd, and then of course, as we just saw, Morton and Sam, the best duo, at least this season, unstoppable against them.
Let's go ahead and look at our King of the Hill rosters, and interesting to note here, RF back in the leadoff spot for Space Station with Samuel in the middle, Lapicati batting cleanup. And he'll be opening things up against Javi Catorce, and it is Sam coming out one more time. You see all thumbs up here from SK Gaming, and that's been the story of the season.
Yeah, it really, really has. They only changed up this lineup in one matchup, a Space Station, where they had Samuel come out first, and then Lapicati, and then RF in the closing spot. That was against Tribe, and it did not work out in their favor. So I like going back to this, and I always like RF in the first spot.
Yeah, currently the only player in this season with 2 King of the Hill sweeps, 6-2 overall in the King of the Hill set.
Of course, Javi on the other side of it. King of the Hill kind of struggling, honestly. He hasn't picked up a King of the Hill win yet this season, but of course 4-2 in that 1v1 set.
Magic Archer stays on the board. We'll get a couple extra shots here for Javi, and a nice heal spirit that works out for the Spaniard over RF.
Yeah, and just staying on that gas pedal, so it pulls out a Fisherman for a -1 trade, and of course now the Fisherman not in cycle.
Snowball, Fisherman, and Hunter to deal with what I presume will be the Ram Rider pushes coming from Javi.
Yeah, and Javi here actually is going to have a pretty nice counter push if he can get anything down in time. Keeps that Inferno alive. That's very important.
And that's a nice little Heal Spirit Miner.
Yeah.
Look at the way that RF put that together. Miner to the back, Heal Spirit in front.
Ooh.
Very, very well defended in a tough spot.
Yeah, this is tough. You know, Lumberjack comes in, is going to clean that off the board instantly, so RF has to overspend with these Skeleton Dragons up high. Javi probably ignores these. Yep, he goes on offense. Not even ignores them. Great job of the Ram Rider. Wow.
And she does connect. Man, that Ram Rider can be so frustrating.
She is such a nuisance, man. So much there. Hunter in her face and still somehow squeaks by with a sliver of HP.
That's that range. That's where you get the Lumberjack combination with the Ram Rider. Makes things real, real nasty. You see kind of a bit of a breath taken there by RF. Cycles his giant skeleton.
Yeah, RF kind of knows this is his moment to reset the game, but he needs to have a really, really good sequence here.
A little pressure bandit in the left-hand lane from Javi 14. Fireball clears out the path, forcing the Miner out from RF.
Yeah, I love that bandit. If you look at the response of what RF can play, that bandit single lane really, really disrupts what he wants to do offensively. I really like that.
So how does, there we go, there's the, I was gonna say, how does RF put together a balloon push here? And this balloon, though, going to be low on HP, and the Ram Rider will stop it from connecting. So it really does feel like it's going to be difficult for RF to get into the second level with any real meaningful way.
Yeah, and you know, even in RF, even with this really tough position that he's in, has made some really, really nice plays. You saw there he drops the Hunter, or excuse me, the Fisherman one tile too low, so that bandit looking for it that Javi dropped doesn't actually have any effect. So RF is able to stay in the game here. If he would have played that Fisherman one tile higher, I think he might have just lost.
Inferno Dragon deep for Javi 14. The Giant Skeleton gets a little bit extra, but of course the Magic Archer lines things up.
All bad news for the God RF right now.
And he's trying to find an opportune time to pull a balloon through, but Javi's doing a good job of cycling and making sure that he's never more than one card away from having a response that can hold on to that balloon.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, and his last-ditch effort will be the Ram Rider, which is always in cycle for him. So Javi doing the right things here. Did the God RF find a moment where Javi might have not been paying close enough attention to his cycle?
Nah, he's in good shape there. Beautiful, beautiful play. Javi put that together very nicely. RF now trying to pull out all the stops on defense. Second Ram Rider in with a little bit of rage up high.
Yeah, this is nothing but trouble right now for the God RF. Javi can just stay in the driver's seat, maybe even drops a bandit down. No, he does not. He resets with that Magic Archer in the back, knowing that this game is so in the bag at this point.
Stretching himself maybe a little bit thin here. Magic Archer does go down. Final 30 seconds left. RF really needs some sort of connection on the right-hand side.
Yeah, and you know, he wants to put the balloon down, but he just knows it's not going to get where he needs, so he's trying to win this bridge battle first, burning through half of his time.
That was a great fireball there. Ram Rider needs to hold on to that balloon. Does not connect. Balloon trying to get in.
Oh my God.
This could
Oh my
be
God! Oh, the bomb drop does not go off in time. Look at that. Javi looks over and maybe wipes a little sweat off his brow and gives his team a look. No, I was okay. I was okay, no worries.
Wow, absolute wow. And you think about the way that Javi set up those defenses early on, preventing a lot of extra damage that could have gotten in, and how important that was at the end, decided by such a thin margin.
It felt like the God RF had kind of cracked the code that was Javi's defense there at the very, very end. That bomb drop, plus the death damage, you know, if that happens one other time in the game, it's obviously game over, but even just that 2 seconds. It was just 2 seconds of window for that bomb to go off, and he would have taken the lead there. So great job by Javi by being in control the entire time. The God RF maybe figures things out a little bit too late, and he will be taking a seat for the rest of this match.
And Javi does finally pick up his first win in King of the Hill on this season. Very important one. You can see this got fairly close here in the final 30 seconds, Andrew.
Yeah, it really did, and it started by the God RF dealing with this at the bridge before he wanted to send in the balloon, because he'd already put together this push, but then realized he couldn't put the balloon behind it. So what did he do? He let his opponent try to make a mistake defensively, which is exactly what he did. He plays that Ram Rider a little too high, and that's why this balloon is able to get away.
Yeah, the balloon does connect, but just a little bit too much of a gap, and that miner stays on a little bit longer. If the Magic Archer doesn't turn towards the miner, maybe we get some more damage there for RF. No big spell for direct damage, obviously. So Javi knew he had enough of a gap there as long as he dealt with that miner, got the big-time win, and now 1 down. And this is an 0-3 start on the day for Spacestation. More importantly, a 3-0 start for SK.
Yeah, and again, what stops SK? You know, 2v2 would be the one place where you think these best other duos in the God RF and AC, and of course in Buffmac and Azelius are going to give them a run for their money, but no one even contesting them. And then as you move into the King of the Hill, which again, it feels like SK gets stronger as you move through these sets. Sam's firing on all cylinders, Javi's coming out first now. Like, what do you do to stop them? And I don't have any answers for that.
I think King of the Hill is where you beat SK Gaming, right? They're 8-8 on the season right now in King of the Hill. There are openings to draw some blood here, but if you can't beat them in 2v2, you're giving them that King of the Hill and the 1v1, and Javi's been so darn good in that third and final set.
So speaking of trying to find their first King of the Hill win this season, Samuel also in that boat. You know, a little bit different of a story because he didn't have to show up in 2 matches that the God RF swept in, but otherwise, he's lost to Air Surfer and lost to TNT.
And you see Samuel happy to go in heavy there on the right-hand side with a lot of fireball value because he knows he's 95% likely not against fireball. This typically, once you see the snowball and hog, you expect triple spell with EQ.
Yep, exactly.
It's one of the things about playing in competitive or challenges versus playing ladder. You know, you see Hog Snowball as the first 2 cards in ladder. You have no idea what else is coming. Let's be honest.
Could still be a Lava Hound deck.
It could be a Lava Hound Graveyard Freeze deck behind the Hog Snowball. But when you're playing in competitive, you see those first 2 cards down. It's a big part of competitive success is knowing that in that moment Samuel wasn't worried about Fireball.
Yeah, it is really incredible here when you get to high levels of competitive play, how quickly, you know, these guys recognize what their opponent's playing. And also, you know, when you get to high-level ladder play, it's also cool to see how quickly pros recognize what they're going against just by looking at the opponent's name. So very different stories there, but when you're at the top tier, you know, you got to be able to make those recognitions really quickly.
EQ cycles on the Barb Hut, clears it off. 4 Barbarians to the right-hand side, 4 Pigs to the left, Bomb Tower to clean a lot of that up.
Yeah, and what I really like about what Samuel's doing here is he's making sure that Javi has to spend all of his elixir defensively because he knows he doesn't have that big spell to deal with a massive hog push on the left or barbs plus skellies on the right.
First 2 minutes away, and Javi does have the lead. Samuel has to play a late Barb Hut to catch that hog. So it's a single lane battle so far between these 2 players. Fireball going to give a little extra room to that Barbarian for 2 swings, maybe just 1. 1368 remains. Log cycle to the right-hand side for Javi.
Yeah, and Samuel fireballing that because he's confident that his opponent isn't going to go in the left-hand lane to deal with anything else or to get anything too fancy going. So he just fireballs to the right and keeps dropping units in the right.
Skeleton Dragons do add a little bit more there. Actually, a lot more. High Bomb Tower. Does Samuel have the elixir to deal with this Hog Rider coming the opposite direction?
Kind of. 725, 758. A big hit landed by Samuel just moments ago.
And Samuel just spending everything at the bridge right now. Heal Spirit giving a little extra to those pigs, but the Bomb Power will clean up pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I know that his opponent doesn't have the fireball to deal with all things at once, but it does seem that he has the elixir and the spell response to still keep things at bay and create these counter pushes. So I understand why Sam's not going with the dual lane pressure as it's really late in the game and this tower is already so low, but he needs to maybe win these bridge battles with a little bit more ease.
Heal Spirit in. I do not believe Samuel can get to a Barbarian. Oh, just barely. The Hog turns back towards the Barb Hut, but more EQ value in on the right-hand side. 350 remain. Javi in spell cycle range.
Yep, and that's the most important thing to recognize is that Barb Hut comes down for 7 elixir. Javi's going to be able to get back around so quickly and so easily that this is game over. It really does feel like it.
EQ down on the right-hand side. Log behind it. That's going to be very, very close. 2 HP.
Oh my goodness.
Javi better get a snowball in there. Better get it quick. He does. GG, well played. SK Gaming now on 9 game wins in a row, and that's just counting the last 2 matches. That's not even going back to week 2.
Don't get this man rolling, whether it's 1v1, King of the Hill. When it comes to head-to-head, Javi Catorce is still one of the best out there, and he is just moving through Spacestation Gaming right now. The other thing is these aren't just like 2v2 guys or middle-of-the-road King of the Hill players coming in that he's taking down. These are still top-tier head-to-head guys that any squad would be happy for is their ringer that he's taking down.
So just to go ahead and add on to what I was saying about the game records, you know, 5-0 against Tribe, currently 4-0 against Space Station. If we go back to the win against Pain, where Morton closed things out, currently an 11-game win streak for SK.
It doesn't seem possible. When you look at how good the other squads out there, how can SK Gaming be this clean right now? And honestly, it's all about putting in that 10,000, 20,000 hours. You look at the interactions and you look at the decision making by Sam, Morton, and Javi Catorce in these last few matches, and it is unmatched, unparalleled by anyone else.
Absolutely insane. 12-game win streak as a squad, looking to make it 13 here if they can close out their second top-tier squad in a quick 5-0 sweep. What does Space Station do right now? I mean, you're down to your last guy. Lapo has to reverse sweep, and then you have to come out and beat most likely Javi in 1v1 again.
Pray. I think that's it. There's no actual real clear path to victory here other than just good luck, good matchups, really lean into your coaching and your analyst right now. The one thing that they do have in Space Station Gaming is you have Lapakati and then maybe Lapo or Samuel to kind of keep you alive. Those are 2 guys that I know most people would love to have in their corner fighting for their lives. But that being said, it feels near impossible to roll through the rest of this King of the Hill lineup and then face Javi once again in the 1v1.
Well, you talk about a team that can do that, though, Andrew. Let's go back to last season. Tribe Gaming up 2-0. The 3-set reverse sweep for Space Station to win that semifinals and then go on and win the overall spring championship. So if there is a team that can play out of this situation, we're looking at it.
So Lapakati right now needs to go 1, 2, 3 over Javi Catorce, OP Sam, and Morton just to make it to the 3rd set.
Here we go, jump on into it. Javi with the good luck. Man, he has been so good throughout his career, and you talk about him as an overall King of the Hill player. It hasn't been as fire this year, but does have 5 sweeps in his King of the Hill career.
And his opponent, Lapakati, actually came out in that 1v1 set last match for Space Station against Misfits. And a lot of that was because Lapo looked a little bit more dialed in that King of the Hill, and Samuel just didn't look quite on rhythm, it felt like. So Lapo came out, even in spite of losing that game, that 3rd game out, and came and returned it around and 2-0'd Schwarzen to give them the win over Misfits.
A little shake of the head there from Javi.
To remind you, this is match point for SK Gaming, looking to take down another number 2 squad in 4 sets total.
It's the first of 3 match points in a row for SK Gaming. So obviously Javi would love to close it out here, but you still have Morton and Sam who can finish it off just in King of the Hill alone.
Kadi not able to, yes, he does actually get to the Barb Hut just in time, and a little bit of damage also for him on the right-hand side with that Battle Healer.
And we're back here again, Andrew, where you see a Space Station player playing late Barb Huts to pick up the offensive pressure of Javi.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that Javi is going to be looking for the rest of this game. When will that moment... It's kind of really what it is it exposes yourself more than anything. Yes, you defend, but what it really shows Javi when that Barb Hut is played is that you have no other good response and you are way down in Elixir.
A little over 2 Elixir advantage for SK's player at the moment, so he just loads up on the left-hand side.
I love that play. I love it. He knows his opponent doesn't have Fireball. He saw the snowball, the poison come out early. So he just sells out and even gets a little bit of pancakes out of it.
Unbelievable. That mini P.E.K.K.A went full coast to coast and now just pressure the opposite lane with the little guy.
Yeah, and look at that. Pancakes all around. He goes coast to coast twice, both sides of the map, and Lapakati is just in a horrible spot.
Final 20 seconds of regulation. Lapo's put up a little bit of offense so far, but not much. 2 Magic Archers down, and the poison dies off with a lot of arrows flying.
Yeah, insult to injury there. Great Heal Spirit comes in, keeps that first Magic Archer alive. Second one comes down. Beautiful Fireball value, and somehow Javi is keeping these Magic Archers on the board.
It was the log in the last sequence, Andrew. The first one went down. Yeah, this Magic Archer is full value Kmart Blue Light Special. And the protection he gave, whether it be the log, whether it be the hunter, just continually keeping that elixir on the board.
I mean, that's game over. There's literally no way to come back, and he does it again. Whoever's in the replay booth, get this man some Magic Archer defense replays because this is blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. And this is with the Battle Healer that can cross the bridge, by the way. Gets in front of it again. I mean, these Magic Archers have better security than the President. This is insane.
It's so frustrating to watch for Lapakati because he is pouring elixir into taking these Magic Archers off the board, and every single one has gotten at least triple its value.
Hog to the right-hand side just as the poison comes down, so no Barb Hut to pick up those pigs, and Mini P.E.K.K.A goes in, forces the Battle Healer in response.
P.E.K.K.A going to go in. Battle Healer still alive, but more damage done. 829 one side, 729 the other, and almost 2K for each of Javi's towers.
The King of the Hill career sweeps leader in the West, looking to move that number from 5 to 6. Just wants to close things out here. 144 on the right-hand side. Andrew, absolutely unbelievable, was already the #1 in King of the Hill sweeps. Now creates a pretty big gap. The 6th on his career. Javi makes it 12 games in a row for SK Gaming.
I am just speechless right now. If you look at what this squad has done in their last 2 matches, in their last 4 sets, in their last 12 games, it is the definition of perfection. They are so hungry to win that World Titles Championship. Their coach KV can't even believe how good they are right now.
SK is insane. SK is insane.
Yeah,
they've been insane for so long, and the only question is, does this translate all the way through to the end of World Finals in Shanghai, China this next time around?
Ponos has something to say about that. They have been the dominant force on their side of the world, but maybe, just maybe, it is the year for SK to finally hoist that World Championship trophy. Last year, everyone knows it felt like it was decided in their match against Liquid in the semis. They lose by 1 HP, and they are back with a vengeance, rolling through Tribe 2-0, rolling through Space Station Gaming 2-0, and no one looks to be on their level.
This is insane. This is just insane. And Javi played a gem today. And just look at this. So you'll see the log is about to come out here, and look at that. It gets the barb barrel barb out of commission, puts some damage down, and then the fireball across. And look at the mini P.E.K.K.A there to save against that battle healer trying to get across the bridge.
Mini P.E.K.K.A and then the Heal Spirit, and then the Ice Golem, and then the Hunter. Somehow this Magic Archer has been the horror story of Barb Huts for years to come. Every single time we look at these replays, there's a Magic Archer up high shooting a barb hut that has been completely played out of desperation by Lapacati. And again, protecting this Magic Archer over and over and over. Lapacati cannot win the battle of Magic Archer, so therefore he cannot win that game.
Absolutely insane. Javi is brilliant this season. Overall, SK Gaming is brilliant this season. And you talk about what they've gone through so far. They've beat Queso, they've beat Tribe, they've beat Spacestation. You look at who's left on their season, and we've already seen SK go very close to the perfect season. Of course, they went 10-1 back in the fall of last year. Is it possible that they do actually go perfect this time around, Andrew?
You know, of all the teams out there that would go perfect in the regular season, and then, you know, maybe that curse comes into the playoffs of, you know, perfect regular, you lose in the playoffs. I don't think that applies to SK. I think they're one of the few squads that if they go perfect all season long, they'll just carry it on through the playoffs because they're doing everything right. I want anyone in my life to protect me the way that Javi just protected that Magic Archer, okay? Like, that gameplay was against the top in the world, and that Magic Archer was the most protected thing I've ever seen in my life. So can SK do it? Yes. Will SK do it? It sure seems like it. And will anyone stop them in playoffs if they go into it perfect? I don't think so.
Here's the rest of their schedule, Andrew. Next weekend, SK Gaming has Misfits that Sunday. Following that, they have Chivas. So they have two teams that have not picked up a win yet. The real question is at the end. They have Cream Royale Betis and Liquid as their last two matches of the season. Could they drop a match on the way there? Yes, they absolutely could. But right now, things are looking good for SK. 5-0 on the season, and they're big competitors for those number 1 and 2 spots. They have the head-to-head matchup advantage.
Exactly. So if they do end up dropping a match along the way, it doesn't matter because anyone that's going to have is a record that's as strong as theirs, they've already beaten. So right now, SK Gaming, our clear number 1 in the West. And you know what? Until anyone can take a set off of them or a match off them, it's not going to change. The fact that they have taken out these two teams in a row, again, like sound like a broken record, without them even taking one set is just, it's shocking. It doesn't even seem possible because these other teams are incredible. They're so talented.
You have to find a way to beat them in King of the Hill and hope you get a good matchup in the 1v1 because right now in 2v2, Sam and Morton are 10-1 in games, 5-0 in sets. No one's touching them, and you're looking at those 2v2 duos they have left. Misfits can't hang there. You're not going to see Pain beat them in 2v2. Cream Royale Betis might be the big shot with Diego Ian Michifu to take a set off of them in this opening set.
So, you know, with an insane amount of games in a row, with sets in a row, and of course, like you just said, a 10-1 record in the 2v2 set, SK Gaming is dominating the West. They're 5-0 with an 8-point differential here in their favor. Team Queso, 3-1 right behind them, tied up with Dignitas and, of course, Tribe at 3rd and 4th place, and Spacestation Gaming now at 3-2 to round out our top 5. And Rich, it really does feel like our top 6 are already kind of secured unless Liquid can turn things around in that 7th place spot.
Look, Liquid's at 1-3 right now. They've been in this position before. They were in this position in the spring of last year when they turned around and won the league championship. So if there's any team that can battle out of this position that's been here before, Team Liquid can certainly do it. And Cream Royale Betis is not out of reach. Neither is Spacestation Gaming. Heck, neither is the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th place team with a couple of losses in there. The real question right now is anyone from that bottom going to have a chance to claw their way back into a 6th place spot? I think what we have right here, Andrew, is a 7-team race for those 6 spots in playoffs.
Yeah. Well, yes, I definitely agree it is a 7-team race, but it just feels like SK will never drop below 1st place. So playoff picture starting to form here in the West. Tomorrow, more to add to that, of course. Misfits and Chivas Esports still continuing to find their first win of the season. Tribe and CRB facing off after that, again, to look at that playoff picture a little bit more closely. And then Pain Gaming still looking for that first match win over Team Liquid, looking to bounce back after today and the second part of their doubleheader.
Yeah, I mean, you got to feel like it's going to be a must-win for Team Liquid in that one. 2 and 3, totally doable. 1 and 4 starts to get really dire overall throughout these matchups, especially given that some of the matchups they have, the head-to-head goes the opposite direction. So, Andrew, we had a really, really fun day today. Went down to the wire most of the way, and of course, SK Gaming told us that wasn't going to happen. Who's your MVP on the day between the winners of Queso, Dig, and SK?
You know, it's coming down to the 1v1. It's coming down to Ruben and Javi again. And, you know, I think Ruben played really, really well. He was so impressive with what he did. But the thing is Javi looked untouchable today. SK looks untouchable, and even if Ruben played better than Javi today, SK is the team to beat. They're perfect. They're unstoppable. I got to give the MVP to SK Gaming as a squad as a whole, but if I go just to one player, it's Javi Catorce, doing exactly what he's done since the first time we ever saw him, which is being absolutely breathtaking in head-to-head play.
Yeah, I mean, trying to toss up between Ruben and Javi for an MVP this weekend, or for today so far, is so hard. The only reason that I'm going to edge towards Ruben in my vote is because Ruben did it with his back to the wall, had to win 2 in a row in King of the Hill, had to win that 1v1 set, whereas Javi, when you have guys who are going 10-1 in 2v2, the pressure's a little bit less on you there, but that's a coin flip of which performance is better. I'm going to give MVP to Ruben because, again, carrying Team Queso, somebody get this guy some icy hot.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And speaking of Ruben and Javi, did you have either of them on your fantasy lineup? Fantasy Royale, 250,000 gold, 100 gems. Your lineups already have to be set, obviously, as we're halfway through our match weekend. But again, those things open up again on, I believe, Tuesday. But you can see the results as soon as the matches are done on Sunday to see how well you fared that weekend. I've got Ruben. I don't have Javi, so, you can't have everything in the world.
Yeah, I have Ruben and Sam did his job this weekend as well. I was kind of hope, you love seeing Javi with a great performance with the King of the Hill sweep. Sam was next in the lineup, so could have been a big weekend for me overall in our fantasy play. But still more action tomorrow. Andrew, Chivas doing double duty, Liquid doing double duty, Misfits and Chivas. Who gets their first win tomorrow, and who goes and whatever?
I don't know. I think probably Misfits. Chivas just doesn't seem to have it, but it really all becomes a battle for that number 2 spot.
That's it for today. See you back here tomorrow, same time, same place for CRL West Fall Split.